Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in, here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
What is up, peeps? It's that
What
BS.
up, BSers?
Fred, I love that.
Fred, Scott, Ryan, Drew.
I love
on
that
house tonight.
I love that fire new intro, and our two guests didn't even get the chance to see it.
Yeah,
They're gonna have to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Shout out to my
Cheers.
boy Alex, man, for helping me
Someday.
out with that, man. It's a lot of fun putting that together. It's been a lot of time putting in the work to get that done, but came together pretty good. What's up, Ravens flock? How you guys feeling? 24 hours removed from a big win. I guess not even 24 hours yet, right?
No.
After one of the most epic comebacks, one of the most epic games in Ravens history.
Game of the
In
season,
football
no
history. It felt like a Hollywood sound like script.
Right. Yeah, there's few games that you'll like carry with you through your life. Like for me, obviously, I'm old enough to remember 21-31 for the Orioles, the Delman Young game. Obviously, I was at that Vikings game during the snow. Right, there's certain games that you'll just like carry with you for the rest of your life. 100%, that is one of those games that will stick with me for the rest of my life. You'll always remember this game.
Oh yeah, you don't remember where you were at, what you're doing. That's exactly what's going to happen.
So we got a lot to cover on this week's show. I mean, Lamar played his fucking ass off in this game. If you look at the stat sheet, if you want to look at his passing, attempts and all that stuff, and just criticize him on that, well, then you don't know what the fuck you're looking at. You don't know what you're watching when it comes to watching Lamar and this offense, because Lamar is a different breed. He's a breed of his own, and he killed it last night.
He did. He came off like a superhero at the end of the game. A lot of us thought there was some of the title going on. Turns out there was cramping, but we all thought it was.
Right.
We all thought there was something else going on.
Pinch that Loaf. Get out there. Get back out on the field. We need your ass.
Exactly.
We ain't got no more quarterbacks left. I was scared. I thought Sam Cook was coming in, although he's great. I didn't want to ruin his 100% completion percentage.
Right. He's got the
But I
best
thought we
passer
might
rating in the
see him.
NFL.
So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about with that game. We're also going to take a look at the path to the playoffs, where the Ravens currently sit, what their odds of getting to the playoffs are, what are some of the other teams that are on the fringe, what do their schedules look like. Talk a little bit about that. The Terps lose a couple of battles, man. They lost the battle with COVID, and then they had a tough game to Rutgers. But it's on to Michigan State now in the finale. This, I guess, kind of throw it together in any which way you want to Big Ten tournament that they're putting together. So we got a lot to talk about on that as well. But before we do too much, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, and I know I have, give our team a call at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including gift cards to some restaurants you'll probably use at some point in 2021. All right, guys. So we gotta get into this game. I know Flock Nation out there is pumped. If you're anything like me, my adrenaline was rushing. I was on Twitter for probably 2 hours after the game. I needed to digest all the emotions from Ravens Flock out there, because I mean, it was, like I said, an absolute epic game.
It was a huge game, and you knew from the get-go that it was going to be a big game. These are two totally different teams in the positions that they were in from the beginning of the season when they first played. So you knew something big was going to happen. I think almost all of us predicted it was going to be a close game.
Right.
But not any of us really predicted it was going to be this high scoring of a game where both teams are scoring more than 40 points. I think we had one, maybe two people in the predictions that said it was going to be, the Ravens would have 40 or 42 points. And, we got there and we were able to put the numbers up, but The defense had its struggles. The offense just was able to put up numbers in general.
Put this in perspective, right? 89 combined points. I saw this on ESPN last night. 89 combined points, most in a game this season, third most in Monday Night Football history, right? And it was the first time, as awkward as it was of a score, 47-42. It's the first final score of 47-42 in Monday Night Football history. Kind of unique in its own sense.
You had safeties, missed extra points. That's lots of weird things had to happen to get to that.
The game was absolutely
2-point conversions
bonkers.
all over the place.
Right. And I talked about like comparing it to games that'll just carry with you. And I talked about that Vikings game in the snow where it was absolutely crazy the last couple of minutes of that game. Well, there was 20 points in this game scored in the final 2 minutes. Most of any game since 2013 in a 2-minute stretch. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's a huge for NFL in general, right? There's some of the ratings have been up and down throughout the season. This was a matchup that at the beginning of the season, I bet you a lot of people weren't watching.
Yeah.
But last night, I'd be curious to see the numbers. I guarantee you they had a ton of people watching this game because it has playoff implications. It's the future, what they're calling the future in Baker versus the future in Lamar. It had that storybook feel, like Ryan said, and that's one of those things that it just continued moment through moment throughout this game. That storybook feel just continued to happen time and time again.
I can tell you what. It might have had a great ending, as most books do. You hope a book finishes good, but the way that this game started with Lamar slipping all over the fucking field and they're not changing cleats, Drew, how frustrated were you that they wouldn't change his fucking cleats after the first drive of the game when he fell at least 4 times?
Well, so yeah, because I kept saying in our group chat, and then when it looked like they were going to, he waved them off. Like, no, you keep slipping. Like you're gonna really hurt yourself. And why did it only seem to be us? Like I think they even said it. Like they were kind of talking about the broadcast. Sometimes the home team, they can kind of tweak it to however they want, and their guys already know it's going to be higher grass or lower grass. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but it was like ice skates out there.
Did you guys see the meme of everybody was posting during the game of like it's Baker with the lawnmower from the commercial out on the field?
Yeah, right.
Why do we think?
That's good to see that.
Why do we think Baker had something
We're
to do?
Gonna cut it. We're going to cut it an inch shorter than what it normally would be, just to screw with them. But I mean, the equipment trainers, they're prepped for this. Like, I mean, these guys carry like 10 pairs of cleats per player for this kind of situation with different lengths, different, depending upon the weather conditions and stuff. I know at one point during the first half, they brought cleats out for him to change into. He'd ever changed into them. He didn't change into a new pair of cleats actually until halftime, until he came out for the second half. But it was just so frustrating in the beginning. I'm like, God, he's got holes. He's got opportunities to get away from guys, and he's shooting himself in the foot, for lack of a better term, because he can't stay on 2 feet.
Then it's even more frustrating because he still had the old cleats, and he ran the 44-yarder on the the bad cleats. It's like, why did it work for 44 yards, but it can't work when you're in a pocket?
Because it was a straight shot.
Just goes to show
very little
how
moves.
special of an athlete he really is, man. I mean, rushed for the most yards in this game by a quarterback in Monday Night Football history with 124 yards. Considering the challenges that he had early on in this game, just staying on his 2 feet, I mean, he looked like Lamar. They allowed him to be Lamar. There was an emphasis on committing to the running game, and I think Lamar took his opportunities when the defense presented it to him, where I know we've talked about in the weeks past where there's been some times where Lamar, he keeps his eyes downfield, and bless his heart, because he's trying to prove to everybody that he can be this passer. But your God-given talent starts with your legs, and when the defense gives you the opportunity, take it. And he did that last night.
We're not going to let him get by with that bless his heart he just dropped there, are we? Bless his heart.
The show just went southern. Oh, jeez, man.
Cheers.
But no,
bless his heart.
Yeah, right. So I think the big thing about Lamar, obviously the runs and the rushing, most of that came, most rushing yards by QB in Monday Night Football history, the 124 that you mentioned. He did, though, what started to get people frustrated, and I get it to an extent, but you have to understand what the game plan was, because we all were sitting here in the chat getting pissed off every time they were trying to have him throw. The running game was working, so why are you going to the passing game? He missed a few big throws, but at the same time, he was offsetting those with we were offsetting those with some big runs. I mean, we had Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins that were chunking away, but as we said, Lamar is also chunking away in this game.
Yeah, I mean, just the running game as a whole combined with Lamar's stats, 32 carries, 231 yards total on the ground, the 7.2 yard per carry average. This isn't a chump defensive front. Like, they've got a good defensive front there in Cleveland. 5 touchdowns on the ground. This is the path to success for the Ravens. The Ravens need to own the fact that they are a ground and pound team with the ability to take the top off if they need to, and if the defense allows them. If the defense is going to play single high safety, or you've got the opportunity to take the ball deep, then go for it. But don't force the narrative to try to prove all these idiot, commentators and analysts out there wrong, that, I can be a pocket passer and all these. We know, that's all that matters. Go out there and win games. I don't care what it looks like. And that's what they did last night.
Yeah, I mean, with the run game, with JK and Gus were just, when one would start falling off, the other one would just pick up. My biggest problem in this game actually came down yet again to Greg Roman. Why do I feel like I'm saying that? Oh, because I am. Why is Greg Roman not only, trying to pass the ball when we should be running it, but also, why are we having J.K. Dobbins try to be the north-south runner right now when his forte right now is when he gets to the outside? When he gets to the outside, he can get open space. He can get the yardage. That's where he's strong at. But when you're running in between the tackles, that's where Gus really thrives. He's able to ground and pound and get it north and south, get 6, 7, 8 yards. Even the commentators last night, it was crazy how much we were hearing them praise everything that the Ravens were doing, because it doesn't normally happen outside of Lamar. And they were really praising the run game and what Dobbins and Gus Edwards were able to do, putting up the numbers that they were. It's frustrating that we're getting away from what works. We've talked about before about the hot hand, right? The hot hand is not just the hot hand of the player. It's also the hot hand of the scheme. If you're running it down their throat 3 plays in a row and you're getting 6 yards each time, why are you not running on the 4th play?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is one of those games I'm going to give Greg Roman a pass. I mean, they scored 47 points in this game. Were there some questionable decisions? Were there some questionable play calls? Yes. But
during the Trace McSorley moment is where I'm not going to give him the pass. That was way too much work for a fresh QB.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Like I said, there were some questionable decisions, but I will tell you this: when Trace McSorley came in and he makes that 3rd down completion, we don't win that game without that completion.
Well, let's just
Willie Snead makes the catch. He had to make the throw to be able to do it. So yeah, it might have been a risky or a ballsy play call, but at the end of the day, man, it got the job done.
Let's not skip over the fact of why Trace McSorley had to come in.
Yeah.
Because Lamar, all of a sudden they say Lamar's not on the sideline. He went sprinting into the clubhouse. And it was like, okay, what's going on? After, a few plays, he's still not out there. We're seeing the Browns drive down the field. You're like, you can feel that something's going to happen for the Browns at some point here in the next minute or two. And you're waiting for him to come out. And we're all sitting here questioning, is he pinching a loaf? Did he have to take a shit?
That's what I thought. I mean, originally that was my first thought. You didn't see anything on the field that showed any kind of injury or anything like that. The announcers didn't say anything about it. All you saw was Lamar was gone and you didn't know what was going on. So yeah, the first thing you thought is, well, he just had to go to the bathroom. He'll be back in a couple minutes. Well, a couple minutes comes by. Ravens come back on the field and out marches Trace McSorley. And then you start thinking, oh shit, maybe there is more to this. Maybe, so there is something going on.
The best part,
I know we even talked about it when we were watching the game, that Lamar looked like, to me, he almost looked like he was mouth breathing more than normal, like to the point where I thought, well, maybe he's got like some congestion going on, some lingering effects still left over from being sick, because all the players that tested positive for the COVID, a lot of them were asymptomatic. Lamar was not. Like, Lamar slept for like 9 or 10 days straight. They said like he didn't get out of bed much. Like he didn't have the whole taste and smell thing going on. So like he was sick from it. So I thought, well, maybe these are some lingering effects. And it turns out that he ended up having some pretty bad cramps.
Yeah. I mean, and the cramps, what made us all think, right, when they showed the video of him running in the locker room, I'll be honest. It looked like he was running like he was pinching one.
I've seen that run before. I've made that run before. That's that run when you're running to the front door, you're closing your cheeks, and you can't get the key in the front door fast enough. Like, that's what that run was. I've seen it before.
Even when the guy like pops out of the door, he's like, "Get the hell out of the way!" Like,
right?
Let's go.
So the first response by the coaches when they asked about what was wrong with Lamar, they said Lamar is fine. So that sounds again like he's using the bathroom. and then you talk about the commercials with the lawnmower. I think he might have been serving them nachos from the commercials.
it might have been. Is that nacho cheese from the commercial they bank on? But yeah, I mean that's all. This just plays into. To kind of go back, we're going to keep talking about this, but the movie style, Trace comes in, and Trace looked a little bit rough on the first throw, but then he started to kind of look like he was starting to settle in a groove. He was able to get to the outside on a decent run. He looked like he was going to be able to kind of march down the field, and that was the whole thing was, okay, they're not going to want to have this rookie QB, in a sense, come in, or this young backup QB come in and show them up and drive down the field late in the game.
I'll say this about the Trace McSorley incident, right? Of course, it wasn't ideal. We're in a tight game, in a must win. It was against the Browns. Like, you don't want to see Trace McSorley at that point. But what this did for me is this gave me confidence, and this solidified my opinion on Trace McSorley being the number 2 moving forward, and that we're okay with the transition of RG3 moving on and maybe trying to find a starter job elsewhere, trying to latch on somewhere else as a number 2, whatever he's going to do in his next venture. I'm okay with McSorley coming in there, considering he came in basically with no warm-up, no game plan for him at all. He comes in for, again, in a situation where it's the fourth quarter, the season's basically on the line for the Ravens without a lot of help. The season's on the line. And for him to come in there and be calm enough to not turn the ball over, to look fundamentally sound, and then, like I said, make that key third down conversion on that pass to Willie Snead really, really bodes well, I think, for Trace McSorley as our number 2 next year.
Why were we in 3rd and 12? You have running backs getting 7.1 yards a carry. You bring this fresh quarterback in. He runs
why?
Draw and 3 straight passes.
You know why?
How?
You know why we were in that situation? For the fucking elephant in the room. Marquise Brown, I'm not calling him Hollywood anywhere, couldn't fucking catch the football. How many drops did he have in this game? 3 or 4?
Yeah. Why both games last 2 weeks he's had one big catch that erases everyone's memories that he sucked the rest of the game.
I appreciate what he did, and I listen, that was a big touchdown. Without that touchdown, we don't win the game. I get that. But I can't give him a pass anymore. Like our boy Garnett said in the chat room, I'm done with defending him at this point. I've done enough defending him. He's a first-round wide receiver. He needs to be producing at a high level. He's 3/4 of the way through his second year. He has regressed from where he was at this point last year. And you would think with his health alone and the work that he put in the offseason, he would be light years ahead of where he is right now, and he's just not.
And what happened to the 100 balls off the jugs machine? It did nothing.
Well, no, so here's the deal. I think the weight has something to do with it. We've talked about the fact that I think he's afraid to get hit. The other thing that comes down to it with him is I don't care if he erased the tweet or not. He made a comment about complaining that he wasn't being used. No, everybody knows that he feels he's a weapon.
Right.
So he's saying, I don't feel like I'm getting used to my fullest potential. Well, guess what? When the lights are on, you ain't no Hollywood. You ain't no prime time jet either.
I don't remember any Boykin drops this week. Boykin caught his ball.
Boykin, yeah, right. Boykin played way better.
The 1 or 2 that they threw his way, he caught. Yeah,
but he's not a primetime jet. He yet again wasn't necessarily beating. The situation. I'm going to be honest. In my opinion, the situation where he's open and Lamar gets him that pass for the touchdown, that has nothing to do with his speed. It has everything to do with the bad coverage on the Browns' part, because one guy jumps up because he sees Lamar running. What's Lamar done every time in the game? He's run. So we can't give up the big gain. We got to stop before he gets first down. I get it. It's just busted coverage on their point. It has nothing to do with the fact that he blew past them.
Well, what I was talking about earlier with kind of letting Lamar be Lamar and Lamar getting back to doing what he does best, right? There's a lot that comes with that. There is, again, taking what the defense gives you in the run game, which he was able to do last night. And then there's that backyard football element. right? And that's what that was. That pass to Hollywood Brown was backyard football. There was also a pass to Mark Andrews where it was like a 25 or 30-yard pass downfield where Mark Andrews wasn't open, decided to break off his route, cut it upfield. Lamar just dumped it over the defense and got it to him. Those are the types of plays that we saw on a regular basis last year. And we just haven't seen a ton of that this year. It was refreshing. You know, we talked about last week, maybe that little bit of time off that Lamar had re-energized him, re-motivated him. Remember, he's 23 years old, right? He's coming off of his first real full season as an MVP. He had an entire 70-some thousand stadium supporting him at his home games last year, right? At 23 years old. He doesn't have that. There's a lot of mental that you got to get over with that.
Yeah.
And I think just being away for that bit of time re-energized him, and he looks more like the Lamar that we know.
He does, and that's exactly what we wanted. And you talk about refreshing. There was one other thing in this game that, Drew, I know you were super refreshed about, and that was the fact that there was very, very, very little use of Mark Ingram.
Until I read the show doc right before we came on, I didn't even realize that he was in on the flea flicker because I guess I was just settling down. And I mean, during the game, I realized like he's not getting any touches. I didn't think he was even in on that.
Yeah.
So I was shocked with the document that he was even on that. I guess I just was settling down and pay attention.
Yep. Hey, the first play of the game, when they led the game off with him, I thought, oh, well, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Normal Greg Roman game plan. We're going to start with Ingram and then bring the other guys in. But it was literally that play, and then he was done.
And I can't remember word for word what Greg Roman said, but I saw something on Twitter at the end of last week where he pretty much was like, yeah, well, we have Ingram, so he's going to get the ball too. And it's like, here we go.
He used the phrase.
Greg Roman probably changed his mind or something. Was like,
he used the phrase "dirty work," and I will say, Ingram is good in short yardage situations. He's good in goal line situations, but as we saw in this game, so is J.K. So is Gus Edwards. Like these guys aren't an issue in those situations. Like Scott alluded to earlier, Gus Edwards is that north-south guy who he showed that he can bounce it out. And he did that in this game for a touchdown, right? He can do that too. But your traditional north-south runner is Gus Edwards. Your traditional playmaking running back, the more all-around running back is going to be JK. But the veteran savviness of Mark Ingram can't go completely disregarded. Like you still, there is a place to use him. He should just be the third option, in my opinion, at this point.
Well, sometimes we've talked about, the guys in the locker room. We all know going into the season, we saw early in the season, we felt he kind of lost a step. We all knew the biggest thing he's here for is also to be a locker room guy and be that guy that can, help. And I actually like the idea of JK kind of learning from Mark, and I think hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully last night we saw the passing of the buck in saying we need to get Dobbins more of these touches because he is more lethal and he's more effective than Ingram is. And Ingram, I think he seems like a team guy that would sit back and go, well, that's fine. If this is my role, then that's what I've got to do. He's not going to be looking for a payday.
100% is, though, and I think what proves that point is even last night, after Justin Tucker marches on the field and kicks the game-winning field goal, only because Lamar is the fastest guy on the field, Lamar got to Justin Tucker first. But right behind him was Mark Ingram. Well, and that's going after only being on the field for one play in that game. He had a lot to be upset about or whatever, but he put the team first. And that's just the kind of character that Mark Ingram is. And that's what I really like about this guy, especially when we had such a need for that last year when we gutted all of our leadership.
Yeah, and the other thing, you talk about the fact that he's right there with Tucker. When Lamar scores that touchdown, they show the video on TV. He's sitting there, Lamar's sitting there dancing, and who's right behind him? Mark Ingram is right behind him. They were dancing together, celebrating together. That's what you want a guy like that to do, and he's in my opinion, last night, he played his role more than anybody else in being able to sit back and let the other guys do their work because they were outperforming him. Simple as that.
We can't go without talking about Trace McSorley's celebration on the sideline either. I know I saw.
Yeah. So somebody had posted a TikTok video from the stands of Trace McSorley walking off the field. If you haven't seen this, go look me up on Twitter. You'll see the video there. And he's walking, literally limping off out of the stadium with the trainer, and he's watching the play on the Bigtron or the Jumbotron or whatever. And Lamar throws that touchdown to Hollywood, and he starts celebrating and jumping on one leg, on the sideline. Just goes to show, like, even a guy like that, the number 2 quarterback who saw a couple of snaps this year combined, is that bought in to this team and bought into just everything that's going on with this club. Just speaks to, again, the leadership, the clubhouse, and just the continuity that these guys have together as a unit.
Yeah, some players there could have looked at like, that's supposed to be me. That was my chance. I could have made a name for myself and got my next contract. He was just like, hell yeah, we were.
Right.
In any form.
Well,
exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. I think Mark is to the point that he's not looking for a contract, right? If a contract comes his way from somebody, he's going to be, he'll probably take it, maybe a year or two, but he's not out here playing for a contract and looking for a contract right now. He's right. I think of anybody, this is a guy that's wanting to help his team in any way that he can to get a ring. And if that means he's got to sit on the sideline a little bit more than he really wants to, he's willing to suck it up and deal with it. But
speaking of contracts, right? Let's shift the focus a little bit from offense to defense, because not everything in this game was sunshine and roses, right? The defense in this game struggled. The defense, now in the beginning of the game, they did all right. When they were healthy and they had all 3 corners out there, they had Jimmy on the field, which when he's out there, this unit, this secondary is complete. And there's not many secondaries out there that can compete with them. But when Jimmy's not on the field, it's a glaring issue. And, even when, Devontae Harris, when they brought him in, he's served his purpose as a backup. But unfortunately, because Jimmy can't stay on the field, he's getting a lot more snaps than we hope he would. He's just there really hopefully for just depth purposes. But unfortunately, in this game, the secondary had its struggles. But before that, Marlon Humphrey in the first quarter in this game, 2 more punch outs. Now, granted, neither one of them ended up coming back to us, but that gives him 8 on the year. I think it's Charles Tillman. I think he has the record. It might be 9 or it might be 11 in one season. So he's creeping up on that record now. Just goes to show, man, that guy, every time he's going for a tackle, is trying to create a turnover, trying to get the ball out. And he's the one guy. He is the one guy that, like, he can do that simultaneously while wrapping somebody up and still completing the tackle. It's these other guys that try to do that and can't, that frustrate me.
Yeah, they're missing so many tackles because they're so focused on that. And I get it. It's, we've practiced that as a team. It's something that Wink preaches. But at some point, you got to tell your guys, it's not you run up and try and punch the ball and then tackle them. It has to be simultaneous. If you can't do it simultaneously, you don't do it. It's as simple as that, because every one of those punches that you try to punch and you miss, we saw it last night. There were several missed tackles because they're too worried about punching the ball and trying to be like Marlon, right? Hashtag like Marlon. That's what you're trying to be. That's what's happening. And it's not working. So stick to what you're good at. This team, when they focus on tackling, they can swarm the ball well.
Yeah.
Swarm the ball and tackle. And if another guy comes in and punches it out, great. But the only guy that should be doing it simultaneously is Marlon, because he's the only guy that can do it consistently.
Well, a couple guys in the chat room are lighting it up about the secondary. Joe chimes in and says, does anyone agree with me? But our safeties get beat in pass coverage all the time. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about a little bit about last week, where I think as much as I like Deshaun Elliott and as good as a player as I think he is, I think he's playing out of position. I think he's more of a strong safety than he is a free safety. So I think that's part of the issue there. I like Chuck Clark. I think Chuck Clark's a good, strong safety. Does he have his deficiencies? Yeah. I don't think he's a liability out there by any means, but to my point, what I'm saying is I think you've got 2 strong safeties on the field versus having that ball hawking, playmaking type of free safety out there. So I think that is a need. Deshaun says Marcus Peters is dryer sheets. Mark says Jimmy Smith needs to stay healthy. We need him. Alex says Peters can't be a Raven next year. Listen,
contract.
I'm not gonna throw in the towel on Marcus Peters. We knew what we were getting into with Marcus Peters. There is boom or bust with him. There is good plays and there are bad plays. And right now, it feels like the bad is outweighing the good for sure. I get that. But I'm telling you, before this season ends, there is going to be a play that's going to be made by Marcus Peters. It's going to be a game-changing type play because that's what he is, and that's historically what he's done.
And I agree with you. There's definitely an upside to Marcus and what he can bring to the table. The problem that I have is that risk versus reward. We're starting to see the risk hurt more often than the reward. That's where it becomes a problem, especially to your point just a minute ago, when we don't necessarily have a true free safety. If you have a true free safety that can maybe flex over towards whoever Marcus is playing, then yeah, you can do that because then there's somebody that can get behind him and make the tackle or even, have the coverage and break up the pass. But if you don't have that true free safety that can be rangy and cover for Marcus Peters' risk, it just doesn't work as well as it would if you had a true free safety.
I get that. Ryan, you got something?
Yeah, I just want to mention Deshaun Elliott because Deshaun Elliott is one of the very few people I saw doing the Marcus punch very well last night. I remember a play where he was coming on the left sideline and he rode the dude like a backpack and punched it with his left hand. He didn't quite get there and you saw him angry about it, but you could see the technique was there and he was like, I did it and nothing happened. Like he was like upset by it.
Right.
He was like, every time he does it, the ball pops out. What's going on?
Marcus, help me. Marlon, help me.
Like I said, I like Deshaun Elliott. He's still a young player. You got to remember, he hasn't played football really in a couple of years because of the injuries that he's had, right? So he's still kind of getting his feet about him, but I like his potential. I just think long-term, you're probably going to see him slide as more of the strong safety. And I do think that free safety is a need for the Ravens moving forward.
And Bleed Purple says we do need more depth at corner, though it showed again in this game. And that's kind of what you were alluding to. This is one of those things that we had a lot at first. And then we have had guys go down and go down and go down. And, Marcus Peters going down in the middle of that game. Marcus Peters at the end of the game, he was hurt. He was playing hurt. No doubt about it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Marcus Peters in this game, right? Is yes, he got hurt and he was taken off the sideline and he was being looked at by the medical staff, right? He comes back out on the field on his own terms, which I found out after the game. He did not have clearance from the medical staff nor the coaching staff to go back out on the field. He ran out on the field in a clutch situation because he knew his team needed him. Right. So I know some people in here talking about, Alex was saying that he quits too much. Ravens don't quit. I understand that sometimes when you look at his body language, it could seem like he's a little disconnected and he doesn't seem as engaged as other times. I get that. I don't think that was the situation in this game at all. Obviously, if he's coming back out there without getting medical clearance, I'm sure he's going to get reprimanded by his coaching staff. Now, granted, it worked because they needed him. But that just goes to speak to the kind of character he is, and he put his team first.
So we have
exactly what we talked about last week. I mean, when the spotlights shine bright, Marcus Peters is bought in and is a heck of a player. Like that game, everyone felt how big that was, whether you're on the sidelines, whether you're a fan, whether you're in the stands, and Marcus Peters looked like he was re-engaged in the season. It didn't work all the time, and they were getting abused because you were thin elsewhere. So over and over again, they're picking on the rookie. So maybe he's shading over to the help side, and he loses his guy. It was all kinds of problems in that. And if we're going to talk about missed potential, I got to say, Yannick has not been living up to my dreams of him signing up. He looked okay, but it wasn't what you thought you were getting with Yannick.
No, and actually, I saw some stats earlier that it was prior to the addition of Yannick. The Ravens were like 6th in the league in sacks, total sacks as a team.
They were 2nd through 6 weeks.
Okay, second through 6 weeks, right. Okay, that's what it was. Since then, they're 31st in the league in sacks.
We can't put that all on Yannick, though. You have all kinds of interior help.
Trust me, I get it. I understand, and that's what I was getting ready to explain here, is that there's a lot of factors in that, right? Calais Campbell, again, in this game, he was playing at 70%. Yeah, he might have come up a couple percentage from where he was last week. He is nowhere near 100%. Brandon Williams, he's been in and out of the lineup pretty much all year this year, and this defense is very different with him in the lineup. We had last week without Matt Judon out there, so the double teams are on Yannick more than they would be with when Judon's out there. But here's the thing. If you're watching the tape and you're really watching Yannick, he's creating pressure. He is getting there. He's one of the only guys that I see on a consistent basis. I'm not saying he's the only one getting back there, but he's the only one I see on a consistent basis in the camera angle when the quarterback has the ball. He's the only one back there. So he's forcing the quarterback to get rid of the ball quicker. He's just not getting home. He's not getting the gaudy numbers of sacks that you would hope he got, which is ultimately going to get him paid.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that you look at is if you go back and you look at tape, I'm glad you brought that up because last night, while he didn't get the sacks, he was giving that offensive lineman time and a half.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 times he's getting around the edge so tight that the offensive lineman just tries to shove him to the ground because that's the only way that he can beat Yannick. Yep. And Yannick is still within arm's reach of the quarterback every time. Baker's was just able to move out of the way, or he's already gotten rid of the ball at that point. But that pressure winds up creating bad throws, turnovers, bad decisions. And that's what you want. That's one thing you can't measure, to your point. You cannot look at that and measure, well, how many times did he force a QB to throw it out of bounds and waste it down? You can't measure that unless you went back and look at every play and kept a stat on it. And they just don't do it yet. They need to, but they just don't do it yet, in my opinion.
So the one guy kind of flying under the radar at outside linebacker for the Ravens, we talk about Matt Judon and we talk about Yannick because they're the big names, right? They're the sack getters, that kind of thing. Tyus Bowser, who was a guy that was kind of a raw project when the Ravens drafted him out of Houston. Like he didn't play a whole lot in college, but the Ravens saw potential in him, and it's taken him a few seasons to really kind of become a complete outside linebacker. And he continues to get better and better. The Ravens are going to be in a very interesting situation in the offseason. They're going to have to make some tough decisions on who they're going to keep because they can't keep dumping a shit ton of money on the defensive side of the ball because they've got so many offensive players that they're going to have to pay big money if they're going to keep Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. They just paid Ronnie Stanley, or they're going to pay Orlando Brown. They've got some big names on the offensive side of the ball. So they've got 3 guys they got to make a decision on. They've got Yannick, they've got Judon, and they got Tyus Bowser. Tyus Bowser in this game with a big interception. His football IQ was very high on this play. I mean, he read it. He dropped back in coverage, read Baker's eyes, got one hand, one mitt on the ball in a cold environment, right? Everybody else was dropping the fucking football last night. He gets one hand on it, pulls it in as a defender, makes the interception. That's now 3 interceptions for an outside linebacker and a guy who can create pressure. This, for me, as much as I like Matt Judon, I am a Matt Judon fan, I just don't think the Ravens are going to end up keeping Matt Judon long-term, and I'd be okay with them committing to Tyus Bowser.
The value versus cost that you're getting out of Bowser and the upside to Bowser versus what you're getting out of Judon and what you're going to wind up needing to pay him, it's astronomical. Let him walk. Yannick is a guy that if you have to franchise tag him next year, technically you can, and it's still going to be cheaper than Judon and what it's going to cost you on Judon. So you've got to look at that and you've got to assess. We can basically get 2 players in Yannick and Bowser, for just a little bit more than what we would have to pay for just Judon.
Right.
So it makes complete sense that you go and you say, we're done with Judon. He's basically playing for a contract. He's made some arguable mental mistakes this year. And I say arguable because there's some plays that he's been called for that he shouldn't have been on penalties.
Should have been thrown out of Indianapolis game.
Right. And that's one of the ones I'm alluding to.
Rough.
But at the same time, you've got to start looking and saying, okay, he's racking up the penalties. He's racking up the roughing the passer penalties. We've seen multiples out of him this year. The offsides on him this year has been ridiculous. He's been jumping the gun way too early, way too often. So there's such downsides to him that I think you can mold Yannick more and let him be himself and what he can be. And then Bowser provides you that additional stability in the fact that he can drop back into coverage. We've seen that now.
Bowser is definitely a more complete player. Yannick is a pass rush specialist. That's what he's known for, right? That's what he's built his career off of so far. So you're paying for that pass rush, specialty with him. Tyus is going to give you a little bit. He's not going to be great at any one thing, but he's going to be good at a lot of things. And he continues to get better year in and year out. And that's really all you can ask for.
The big things in the sack numbers we can't understate is how good our DBs were playing those first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of coverage sacks too. I mean, right now our DBs are decimated, so they can get the ball out a lot quicker than they could those first 6 weeks.
That's very true. That's a great observation. Wasn't even thinking about that, but that's very true. Another thing that we can't go unnoticed in this game. I know we're a Raven station, so we're talking Ravens all the time, right? But you gotta give credit to where the Browns are as an organization. How far Baker Mayfield has now come. He looked really, really good in this game. He made the one bad throw, which was the interception, right? Outside of that, he 28 for 47, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 5 carries for 23 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. This gets me excited for the rivalries. Again, you remember back in the day when we weren't in the AFC North, when we were in the AFC, what was it, East?
Yeah.
And there was all the rivalries of the Steelers, the Titans, the Jaguars when Brunell was here. Like there was rivalries all up and down the entire division. Well, now when you get the Browns playing at the level that they're at, the Steelers, they got to figure out the quarterback situation because Ben's obviously on his last leg. But you got a good quarterback down in Cincinnati now in Burrow. If they can put an offensive line around him, I think this division's starting to shake up. And the Browns have a great tandem at running back that should carry them for a couple years in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who both performed very well in this game as well.
I give a lot of credit to Kevin Stefanski because with this almost the same, a very, very similar, roster that Kitchens had last year, we saw the complete and utter failure that was Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
Stefanski comes in and puts things into play, kind of almost seems to has a little bit of a no-nonsense attitude, but also seems to be a player's coach and can be there for his guys and back his guys. So he's kind of has the best of both worlds, and he's keeping, so far, he seems to be keeping these egos on this team in check.
Yeah.
Which to me, with all of these guys, I mean, Hunt, Baker, OBJ, which I know he's hurt, Landry, all of these guys being able to keep these egos in check, it's fairly impressive. And then on the other side, Garrett and what he's been able to do with the defense. There's been a lot to be impressed with, and I attribute it personally to Kevin Stefanski. I hope that he gets a long-term deal with them, and this winds up being a rivalry because I'd love, as much of butterflies and gurgling in my stomach was happening last night, I love to see games like that.
It's fun football.
Yeah.
It's fun football. Go ahead, Ryan.
Can we discuss the hilarity of Myles Garrett being their Walter Payton Man of the Year?
I wanted to text you.
Was the runner-up Kareem Hunt? What are they doing? Who put that out there?
Yeah, I wanted to text you so bad.
I was mind blown. I was sitting here laughing with my wife, and she had no idea why because she didn't remember that was the guy.
Yeah.
You remember that dude that bashed somebody over the head with a helmet? That's apparently the best human being on their team.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing?
Is that one of those situations where it's like the Ed Block Courage Awards where it's team voted?
I believe so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, you need to change the parameters of the damn award then because
Runner-up Kareem Hunt. I'm telling you. I don't.
So Alex brings up a good point. He says Baker has to look good, though. They have put everything around him. They get OBJ when they already have wide receivers. They get Hooper when they already have tight ends. They draft another offensive lineman when they weren't weak there either. And they get Hunt when they have Chubb. So I get his point. Alex, you're absolutely right. They have a lot of weapons. And this was very much a put up or shut up year for Baker Mayfield as a future franchise quarterback. But my point is, the year that he's having this year, I think, has re-solidified that because after his rookie season, everybody anointed him the next coming, right? The next Brett Favre. Everybody was comparing him to Brett Favre, and he's a gunslinger, and he's all this, and he's all that, and he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. Well, then he fell on his face, and he hasn't been shit since that year. This was the year. This was the do-or-die year for him to succeed because he has no excuses. You're right. He has weapons. He has an offensive line to protect him, but he's done that. And that's what's exciting to me is, as much as I hate the Browns, as much as I hate the Steelers, I love these kind of games. I love this intensity. Like, no, as fun as it is to watch, your team score 50 points, nobody wants to watch 50-0 all the time. Nobody wants to see that, right? Nobody wants to see blowouts all the time. You like good competitive games that keep you on the edge of your seat all game. And that's what this rivalry can be built around, just like the Ravens. and the Steelers. It's always a 3-point game, no matter what the season is, no matter what the records are. It's always a good game.
So we did have another question that came up from Robbie. I'm curious to get your take on this. He says, Orlando Brown has clearly, in my opinion, played better at left tackle. Do you think that there is a possibility that we slide Ronnie Stanley over to right tackle next season, or do you keep him where he's at and where he's been?
Nah, you keep him where he's at. The only way Orlando Brown would have stayed at left tackle was if they didn't commit the money to Ronnie Stanley and decided not to sign Ronnie Stanley. That's the only way Orlando Brown stays there. I will be interested to see, though, because he has played so well at left tackle. All that's doing is building more value for him when he does hit free agency, that the Ravens are going to have to be smart with him. If they really want to keep him, they're going to have to sign him early as a right tackle, save him that money before he hits free agency, because if another team sees a future franchise left tackle in Orlando Brown, we may lose out on him just because they're going for $20-some million a year.
Yeah. Well, all right. So obviously we made some moves in the offseason. They made some moves in the offseason because we both teams want to get to the Super Bowl. Right. Obviously things haven't panned out as well as we would like them to. Definitely panning out a lot better for them. But Fred, kind of walk us through this playoff picture as it kind of stands right now, because there's a lot that's up in the air. We have, two or three games left, and that's the big piece is we have to win out to really truly have our best shot, obviously, to get in. But if we lose a game, there's a possibility that we're out at that point.
Yeah. So the Ravens, they don't necessarily control their own destiny. They do in the sense that they have to win the rest of their games, so that they control, but they're still going to need some help to get into the playoffs. Even after last night, they still sit at 8-5, the 8th seed in the AFC. So they're one spot away from being in the playoffs. Right now, the easiest path for them is Miami, who sits at the 7th seed, who is also 8-5. Miami would have to lose a game and the Ravens would have to win a game. Miami still has one more game left with Buffalo, so that's going to be a challenging game for them. They've got a game this week against New England, which New England's been, hit or miss, boom or bust. You don't know what you're going to get out of the Patriots. Miami, with Tua, has played well at times. He showed very well against the Chiefs during stretches in that game. So I think our easiest path to get into the playoffs is going to be to keep an eye on Miami. You got Cleveland, who now falls to 9-4. We do own the tiebreaker with them.
Yeah.
So if Cleveland loses one more game and we continue to win, we would then take Cleveland's spot in the playoffs. So there's definitely some scenarios for the Ravens to get in, some good chance scenarios for the Ravens. I would put, if I had to put a number on it, I would say the Ravens have a 70-75% chance of getting into the playoffs just because of the remaining schedule that the Ravens have versus what everybody else in the AFC North had, or the AFC has. I think we've got good odds.
That's where I was going to kind of go. Is it seems like our strength of schedule plays more in our favor for this scenario, which is a thing that we're all kind of really happy about. But you have the Browns, who I think they play the Steelers the last game of the year. Steelers are going to want to come out fighting, even though they win the division. They don't want to lose that top seed, so that you could have that wind up happening because they're on the downfall here recently. So there's a lot of different things that can come into play. With that in mind, do any of you have any worry? I'll tell you straight out, it does worry me because of what we saw last year, that they make this mindset of we need to play differently to get to the playoffs.
Drew?
I don't know how you can see what's been working the last couple of weeks and change anything. Would it shock me? No, because after what happened with dropping to the Titans, nothing would surprise me with Greg Roman at this point, because it feels like one day you're going to praise Greg Roman, the next day you're like, what the hell is he still doing in town?
Right.
So to me, it's still an enigma of what game plan they'll have and stick to, but I don't know how you don't see the bread and butter and get away from it.
Agreed. Ryan, how do you feel about it?
How do you make the same mistake twice? But they're going to make Lamar throw. They still, even in this game, like I said, for me, made Lamar throw more than he needed to. I not always say run till they stop you. We were in the chat. Run till they stop you twice. Like, just because they fluked one doesn't mean anything. If you're getting less than 4 yards, 2 runs in a row, then you can throw the ball. Literally start running, play one, and until they get you less than 4 yards in a carry twice, keep running it forever.
Right.
You have enough people. I mean, we're talking JK and Gus Edwards, great, and Lamar. You already got 3-year run-ins. So you're not running people on the ground. We're forgetting Justice Hill and Mark Ingram. If you have to rotate everybody, if we're all getting 4 yards, just do it. Like, there's no benefit of going through the air, because whenever the ball is out of your hand, it's anyone's ball. That's the whole thing. Like, there's risk in that. So if you don't have to ever throw, it is better. It's just better.
So I'm going to bring up another question real quick before we kind of move on. That comes, it's a result of what I am Infinity says on YouTube. He says Greg Roman has to go. My question to you guys each is also, regardless of what happens the end of this season, minus, I'll say maybe a Super Bowl. If we can get to the Super Bowl and win it, then I don't know that this is the case. At some point, where is the line? Is it this year for Greg Roman and this offense, and saying, Greg, you're getting away from what works too often?
Who's going to come in and do that?
That's kind of where I was going to go with this. There's a couple of things you got to keep in mind with that, right? Is I understand it's real easy to say Greg Roman needs to go and we need to replace him. That's fine. If you do that, what personnel are you replacing behind him? Because I can tell you now, if you think replacing Greg Roman with this high-flying offense that's throwing to wide receivers all the time is going to change it with the personnel that we have right now, you're sorely mistaken. Because if you look at the NFL and you look at any high-powered offenses, every true legit quarterback out there has a number one receiver, right? Rodgers has Adams, Mahomes has Hill, Breeze has Thomas, Kyler now has Hopkins, right? All of these more high-powered throwing offenses have a true number one. We don't have that. So if you're going to bring in another offensive mind, then you've got to be bringing in replacements at wide receiver, at the skill positions as well, to complement and fit that system. And I just don't see, with the way the Ravens are set up right now financially for the future and a lot of the decisions that they have, are they going to be able to afford to bring in a number one type of wide receiver? I just don't see the money. When Lamar gets paid the $40+ million that he's going to get paid, and everything else that we have on these contracts right now, there's just not going to be enough money to go around. So I think that this is a valid conversation to have, and I get why we're all frustrated with Greg Roman, but I really think that if you look long-term, I don't know if that's as simple as just saying we need a new offensive mind in there, because there's a lot of other pieces that have to go along with that.
I'm not
so mine's go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
Mine's the exact opposite of Fred. Again, I just want him to run the ball more, not get us a high-flying offense. So who's going to do that? No offensive coordinators can come in here and be like, I'm going to run the ball every play, even though it would totally work with this staff we have. But maybe you just fire him. And I mean, Lamar's agent is his mom. Maybe she wants to be offensive coordinator too. Maybe she'll do it, because nobody in the NFL is going to do what I'm saying. And I understand that.
And this is kind of what I was saying about Lamar last year and this year. And in this offense, right, is everybody wants to say, well, Lamar's can't do this forever, and he's not going to have a 15-year career like a Ben Roethlisberger or Phillip Rivers would. And cool, that's fine. I don't think the realistic expectation for Lamar is a 15-year career, not at the playing style that he is right now. But my point is, if that means you've got another 7 years of this type of production out of Lamar, it's safe to say that Lamar should be able to play at this type of level until he's 30, right? As long as he doesn't get the big injury, knock on wood, or anything like that, his skill set, his speed shouldn't diminish between now and the age of 30. So if you get 7 good years out of him, this system, this run-first system, is okay. And this is what's going to play to Lamar's strengths. Doesn't mean Lamar doesn't have to throw the ball 15 to 20 times a game. He can still throw the ball 15 to 20 times a game, but you don't abandon what Lamar does well and what makes him special out of fear that he's not going to have a 15-year career. It is what it is. You've never seen an athlete like Lamar. I get all the comparisons to Mike Vick and all that, and that's rightfully so, but Mike Vick, he's a different player than Lamar. And Mike will even tell you that he's a different player than Lamar. We don't know what we have, and we got to get out of this mindset of what we're so accustomed to and what we've been accustomed to watching in the NFL for the last 20 years, that everything's got to be modeled after the years past. Doesn't have to be that way. Lamar can be this type of quarterback and be successful as long as you don't abandon that.
No, but I think that's where I think the point comes in for me, in that I'm kind of the in between both of you, is that I look at things and say, let's look historically at Greg Roman. His offense comes out explosive wherever he goes at first, and then it grows stale consistently everywhere he's been. And he gets away from what works because he's trying to develop the quarterback too much, too fast.
Then you're the problem, because that's what happened. He heard all of this criticism and came out this year with a completely different game plan than what fucking won you 14 games last year, because he didn't want it to be stale. Well, let's get it stale and let's win 16 games and not try to do what you're not. We don't have the players, like Fred said. Thank God Andrews came back. We skipped over that. I was terrified when I heard Andrews had COVID-19. Number one, we need him to win at all. Number two, for the man himself with his type 1 diabetes, I was scared for his own safety and health, and also that this might be that big domino, that star player that gets hospitalized or something terrible and shuts it all down. Those were my thoughts when I heard him get COVID. Type 1 diabetes and COVID don't mix. It's a miracle he's back this quick.
Yeah.
So the way he played was amazing. I was so happy to see that, and we need him. He can't be overstated what he is to this team.
100%. You're absolutely right. I want to address a comment in the field too, because this actually brings up a good point too. I Am Infinity says, so do you all not see the Chiefs as an offensive threat? It's a reason for that. So here's the thing that I think people just, this is that video game mindset, this Madden mindset, that because the Chiefs throw the ball and can score in 15 seconds, that they somehow got 14 points on that touchdown versus the 7 that everybody else gets. That's not the case. Every time the Chiefs score, the max they can get is 7 or 8 points every time they have the ball, right? As long as you're efficient as an offense, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to score the 7 points behind them. Just because you can't score it in 15 seconds like they do because they can throw the ball 80 yards down the field and be okay with it, doesn't mean that you can't keep up with the likes of the Chiefs. And honestly, the best way to beat the Chiefs, I said this last year, is keeping Mahomes off the field and limiting how much and controlling time of possession, right? That's been our problem with the Chiefs. Every fucking time we've played them is that we try to play to their game. We try to play and match their style. We're not the Chiefs. We never will be the Chiefs with Lamar Jackson as our quarterback. That's not what's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that we can't keep up with them and that we can't beat them. We just have to go about it a different way. And a different way means the same way that we beat everybody else.
Right. I would love to be the Chiefs, but I feel like trying to be the Chiefs is why we're in this situation. Why we drafted Primetime Brown was because we wanted a new Cheetah. Well, it failed. That's not Cheetah. Cheetah doesn't drop 3 balls. Cheetah doesn't get 1 lucky catch each game. We had so many other options that would be the prototypical one, but didn't look like Cheetah, that we could have went with in that draft.
The only thing
literally every wide receiver for the first 3 rounds that year has done better than him.
The only thing I'm going to say to you on that is, we didn't try to beat the Chiefs, okay? John Harbaugh tried to beat Andy Reid. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to coaching, right? And scheming. You don't get away, and this goes to that point. If you're beating everybody else with the run game and running it down their throats and having Lamar get to the outside and get 15 yards, you don't all of a sudden then try to be a passing deep threat game against the Chiefs just because you want to put up as much spark as they do. Do they put up spark? Are they offensive threat? Absolutely. Right. Patrick Mahomes is a top-tier quarterback and honestly will be for the next 10 years.
Andrews is the only ball catcher we have that would get any playing time on the Chiefs.
Agreed.
Everyone else will be on the bench.
Agreed, but that's why you stick with the run game.
So
you don't then try to trot him out there and do the same thing.
I Am Infinity replied, and he says, false. It's because they have multiple ways of being threatening, pass and run. It's not about trying to be the Chiefs. It's about being effective in both main aspects of football, run and pass. You're just looking at it from the opposite side, though, right? Yes, the Chiefs can be effective both running the football and throwing the football, but it's an unbalanced effectiveness. It's 80% pass and 20% run. Maybe we're on the opposite end of that. We're 20% pass and 80% run, or we should be anyway with the way that we're designed. At the end of the day, as long as you're efficient on offense, 7 points is 7 points no matter how you get there. It doesn't matter if you get there in 15 seconds, or it doesn't matter if it takes you 5 minutes, a methodical drive to get down there and score 7 points. As long as you're matching them tit for tat and you've got a good defense that out there that can potentially get you a 3 and out or hold you on a drive, that's the difference in games. Being efficient, not turning the football over, not getting out of your element, playing to your strengths. That's how you beat the Chiefs.
The Chiefs are like 24th in the league against stopping the run. They give up 128 yards a game. That you don't then, in the game against them, you don't then turn around and try to throw the ball against them. Because when you try to throw the ball against them, I'm sitting here trying to pull up their stats on that. When you sit there and try to throw the ball against them, they are, let's see, they're kind of middle of the pack. They're giving up about 230 yards. You go against what's their weakest and what's your strength. That's how you match up and compete with them. You do not then try to throw and make a game out of something that's just not there. To your point, Ryan, when we don't have the guys to be able to do it.
I'm almost convinced the coaches thought they were smarter than they were with that Chiefs game. I think that they thought we were cakewalking it to the playoffs with the schedule, just like we thought we were. Looking at that schedule, we were all predicting 11 wins or more. And I think that the coaches thought that same thing. And so when they went to that Chiefs game, we're like, we're going to play not our football. So they don't get to see us at all. And we can go into the playoffs and we can show them nothing that we did in this game. And if we lose because we'll win all the other games. But it turned out we didn't win all the other games, and that plan went out the window.
Drew, our buddy James, has commented and said, it looks like you've been in the tanning bed a little too long getting that tan on.
Yeah, don't give me some
Might want to dial it back a notch. Your face is starting to blend in with the wall. All I'm seeing is chin hair and eyebrows at this point.
I'm wearing a ski mask next week. Next week I'm not gonna wait till right before showtime next week. This weekend I'm coming in this room and
I got you a Home Depot gift card for Christmas. We're gonna paint the room.
I don't even know. I'm done with painting this damn house. That's you're giving me a little tangent. That's for the after hours. But no, thanks, James.
So I Am Infinity responds. He says, with Roman's scheme, we haven't been efficient this. Did you just cut me off there, Scott?
I did, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, he was just saying, with Roman's scheme, we haven't been efficient this season, just like the Bills and 49ers regressed after the first year under Roman. I'm not against us running this year because y'all are right. And I'm not arguing with you. I do think that we've regressed, and I do think that, to Ryan's point, we get out of our element at times and we don't play to our strengths. We should be running the football down teams' throats, right? Make them stop that. And then Lamar can pass the ball, but he doesn't need to put up 300 yards like Baker Mayfield did and throw the ball 40 times. That's not the key to success with this organization and with this way that this team is built. The team is built about being a ground and pound team. That's why they set the record that they did last year. That's what they're built to do. But you're right. They just haven't been as efficient and as effective that we had all hoped they would be this year.
All right. So I know we've gotten a bunch of these in, but let's just kind of run down the list here, Fred, of everybody that's been tuning in. We got to 100 comments tonight real quick.
Yeah.
So it was
everybody's fired up, man. Everybody's pumped up after that big game, man.
So we got what's the B word? Alex, Steve, James, let's see, Jesse, Chuck. I Am Infinity. We've talked to you a few times. Cesar, Mark, Craig Zero. A lot of the usuals here. Joe C. How do you say his last name, Fred?
Carlozo.
There you go. Mark. Let's see here. I think we've been hitting a lot of these comments as we go on. Lunch break, hot take. Some friends of ours from over in YouTube. Dominic has been chiming in every once in a while.
What's the B word? We saw him earlier. Another friend from YouTube.
Nick Short, hey, we skipped over it, but he did have his annual his usual AB comment somewhere in here.
Did he really?
He did.
I think talking about AB.
He's signed, bro.
I think he said that we
real great in Tampa.
Yeah, right. I think he said we're talking about weapons and we should have gotten AB, so he brought him in there. You know how he is. He always has to get that in there.
Yeah, could you imagine bringing him in when we were in like our little dip period? Yeah, that would have worked amazingly.
AB is another one. So on the Patriots last year, he looked like a world beater because they had no wide receiver talent. On Tampa, they got wide receiver talent. He's a bench warmer. Yeah, that's what he is there.
We got Bleed Purple, Ryan also chiming in. Sherry, which Sherry said this a little earlier in the show. I posted it, but I put it up there, but I'm gonna put it up there again. Drink one for me, guys.
I just did. So cheers to you, Sherry.
Cheers to you, Sherry. Appreciate it. Always chiming in, sharing, Sherry. That's a lot of. We've been hitting a lot of these comments, guys. If I miss anybody, I apologize. Steve, Samuel Jackson. I know Robbie is another one here. So keep the comments coming, guys. We love the interaction. Keep it coming.
All right, man. So let's move on. Let's get into our picks to click this year.
I got one more because he said it like 12 times. Joe really needs to know what's on your TV that's glowing so brightly.
It's porn. It's porn. Pornhub.com.
Porn might be better than
YouTube. YouTube and Facebook censors it out. That's why you can't see it. It's porn.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the casting couch.
Yeah, you might not want to sit on that couch. Sorry, Ryan.
Pretty comfy.
All right.
So we got to start with this Ravens and Jaguars game because we haven't even had a chance to really talk about that yet at all. Look, the Jaguars 1-12 on the year. If we lose this game to Jacksonville, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Speaking of porn, they've got the porn star.
Say the same thing.
They've got the porn star himself in Gardner Minshew back in the lineup as a starting quarterback this week. Look, the Jaguars are a AAA football team tanking for Trevor at this point, hoping for the best that they can do that. So I don't think they're going to be putting their best foot forward to be trying to beat the Ravens this week.
Hope not.
Yeah, this game doesn't scare me. The only thing that scares me about this game is health. We got to get healthy. Even if there are some guys that maybe we can save some snaps, not play as much in this game to just try to, save some energy, get some people some rest. Whatever you got to do, you still got to go out there. You still got to win the football game. I get that. But it'll be interesting to see. This could be one of those games. Trace McSorley is on the IR now. RG3 is on the IR now. So our backup is going to be the guy, the undrafted kid.
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley. Right. So I'm assuming he will get called up from the practice squad to be our backup. I'd be all right with seeing him in the third quarter if we've got that much of a lead and having Lamar sit on the bench.
I wouldn't hate it. I'd love to. I'd love to see what he can do against true competition.
Yeah. Does Humphrey shadow Chark since Chark is the only person that can beat us?
No, for some reason they'll put.
I'm not going to say Robinson can.
They'll put Marcus on him for some reason.
I think Robinson's going to be the biggest challenge in this game. I will say this: Patrick Queen needs to play football better. He needs to be better. Like I get it. Like when you look at his statistics and all that stuff, he's having a pretty good rookie season when you just look at the stats, but there's so many times where he just looks lost. And he didn't play a whole lot of college football. And it's a lot to expect a guy to come in and start day one as a middle linebacker in the NFL. And then to do it in a COVID season where you don't have training camp, really, you don't have the same type of exposure and you don't have all the preseason games and all that. So I understand all the challenges that Patrick Queen has dealt with, but he's going to have a big task in watching Robinson out of the backfield in this game. That kid's good.
Drew, you said something about Chark not playing?
He's been hobbled. I don't know if he is or isn't, but I'm just saying like he's been hobbled. He's had his issues. He hasn't really had any big blow up games per se, but that's because
his quarterback's been gone is what I put that on. So with his quarterback back is what I was scared of.
It wasn't Giraffe Neck. If one is Giraffe Neck, he's done. I mean, he's definitely receiver wise. He's the I can't see you. I can't see this one being close.
As long as Marlon shadows him, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's get into these predictions. Scott, I saw you putting yours in there now. So what do you got? What do you see happening in this game? Is this a layup for the Ravens?
So for me, I think this is a slam dunk for the Ravens. They've got to come back, even though they just had a tough game. They've had some injuries. I think there's just too much going in our favor right now. I think this is like we said, the Seattle game was a momentum swinger. I think this is a momentum swinger for us this year. So I've got this being a 35-13 win over the Jaguars. Win it handily. Maybe we see Huntley late in maybe in the fourth quarter. I don't know that you see him. I'd rather not have to see him, but if we do, I think it'll be in the fourth quarter. James also, we didn't get Brian's this week. He didn't get it.
We did get Brian's. Brian's Brian's had the let's see.
I'm so
No,
out
actually,
of
he
sorts.
didn't send the Ravens.
No, he sent it.
Oh,
yeah.
he did. He's got the Jags.
He's got the
24-17.
Jags 24-17.
He's just trying to play
Jesus.
catch up.
This is 3 weeks in a row he's picked against us.
He
Wow.
can't catch up with you guys anyway. So.
I guess at this point he's just hoping. He's just hoping.
Well, no,
that he
he's
can
just
catch up some
he's
sort of way.
he's picking the other team so that we win. That's what he's doing.
Ryan, how do you see this game going?
Ryan doesn't see his scores in here, so I was scrolling up my text messages. But I definitely see the Ravens winning. If I'm picking out scores right now, since I don't see it here,
37-24 is what you have.
37-24. So that is, again, if Chark's not playing, I'm not scared at all. Robinson does scare me. Like I said, he is a heck of a running back that they found for nothing.
Right.
And has definitely changed some fantasy seasons this year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Drew, what do you see happening in this game?
38-13 Birds.
So
Slam
not
dunk.
much of competition.
I don't even have anything to say. That team, I didn't even realize that first win was Indianapolis way back in week 1.
Yep.
Completely forgot. And that was like all Minshew, and I know Minshew's back, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. That team, at this point, you got to figure that there's guys on that team are just like, you know what? This is over. The season's over. Time to go to vacation mode.
Yeah.
Hi, baby.
Hi,
Yeah,
sweetie.
I don't think it's close.
Say hi.
Hi. She's too cute. All right. So for me, this isn't going to be much of a matchup. I think that this is even more of a blowout if the Ravens have their starters in for 4 quarters. I don't think that'll be the case. I think the Ravens will have a big enough lead late in the third that you'll see some of the starters coming out. Even Lamar might come out in this game. I think the Ravens win it 33-15. Like I said, I think the key to this game is getting guys healthy, getting guys some time to rest, and just making sure you get out there and you do enough to win the game. That's all I care about. I don't care how it looks. Win the football game.
Yeah. All right. So let's take us over to the Thursday night game, which is going to be the Chargers at the Raiders. Let's start with Ryan. Ryan, what do you got in this game for the Chargers and the Raiders? Who do you think?
Scott, you're killing me. What's my score? And I'll tell you what's going on. I don't want to make
27-24 is what you have.
27-24.
That doesn't help him much. He said Raiders.
And this is the Raiders. No, I didn't need to know which game we're talking because, again, I'm scrolling here as the girls come down and say night. 27-24 Raiders. All right. So, yeah, I think that the Raiders have played really well this year. Carr is back to the form that we thought he was 2 years ago instead of the bum he was last year. And that neither one of the teams can really figure out how to win at the end of games. Justin Herbert finally just did it against Atlanta, which we all know Atlanta blows as many games as the Chargers do.
Right.
So I think that the Raiders are the lesser. They're beat the Chiefs. I mean, I'm going to give them the slight edge here.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. What do you got, Scott?
For me in this game, I sat here and said there's no way that I think the Raiders can continue the success that they've had in the past over the past several weeks. They've had some ups and downs, but they've had successes at times. I just don't know that they can do it against the Chargers. Eckler has been doing too well for the Chargers. I think there's a lot there with Herbert, but I think it's going to be a close game. I just don't know that they can hang on and make it happen. So I've got this being a Chargers win 24-20.
I think this is going to be a close game. I think there's going to be a lot of passing yards. You might see 700-800 total yards of offense in this game. I think it's going to be stupid because Herbert can throw the football. Derek Carr can throw the football. He's got targets all over the field. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think the Raiders, the extra motivation, still trying to stay in the playoff race. I like their running back situation a little bit better. I'm going to take the Raiders to win this in a close one, 30-27. Saturday. We got Saturday football.
You forgot Drew there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Drew. Right. Sorry, Drew. you disappeared, so I didn't think you were there.
That's right, because I'm still just the outsider.
I didn't think you were there.
Deal.
It just looked like the wall.
No big deal. It's okay. It's okay.
Go ahead, Drew. What do you got?
Some of us made the playoffs and want Keelan Allen to just fucking go to the moon in this
YouTube
game.
just cut the cable channel on Fred.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't pay my porn bill.
I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. I get no respect. No, hold on, my phone, lapsed because I got forgotten. Raiders 30, Chargers 28. Anthony Lynn's gonna do something stupid again, cost them.
You wanted me to give you all that time for that? That was your
you know
analyst? Like, that's your decision there?
Look, you don't respect me. I don't respect the 5 seconds I get.
All
You're
right,
going to be
Saturday
on it next year.
football.
Don't worry. I promise.
It's that weird time of the year. We start getting Saturday football. We got 2 games on Saturday, 4:30 game. The Buffalo Bills going into Denver to take on the Broncos. The Broncos get Drew Lock back. They're also going to get their tight end and Noah Fant back, who had to leave this past week's game with a stomach bug. Apparently, he got like food poisoning or something.
Him and Lamar both.
Yeah, I think the Bills are a legit football team. Like I don't think people give the Bills enough respect. Josh Allen has really, really impressed me because I was not impressed with him. I told you that before. I think they're just an all-around good football team. I think they'll do enough in this game. Bills win 27-19.
All right. And I know that James's score for this game, James has this being a Bills win. He's got Bills 31-16 on this. For me, I've got it being a Bills win. I don't know what the hell I was smoking when I wrote my score. I meant 31-25, not 21-35. So I'm going to go Bills 31-25.
All right, Ryan, Bills 34-17.
Yeah, Bills 34-17. I finally got the scores up.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I uploaded them, yes.
So you say you're impressed with Josh Allen this year. The change in Josh Allen this year is he finally has a number 1 receiver, a true number 1 receiver. They went out and spent it. They got my boy Stephon Diggs. They are a legit team. The Broncos aren't impressive at all. I don't know if Drew Lock seems like he has number 1, but maybe they're just all names. I don't know out there because there's lots of names and no production. Maybe Drew Lock's no good, but I see 34-17. It's going to be all Allen all the time, and it's 17 points to be in garbage time. It might be 7-34 when it starts.
Drew, the floor is yours, my friend.
Floor is mine. I got Bills 26-10 Broncos. Josh Allen has impressed me this year. I think he had their lulls where it was a little bit in there in like late October, early November, where people, you kind of had the MVP talk and they kind of simmered it down a little bit. I think he's come out and proven that he's not just a throw it or try to throw it 60 yards like he was doing it. It seemed like every throw last year that's the only thing he wanted to throw.
Right.
And I mean, considering that they haven't had anyone stick at running back to be able to move the ball, I mean, he's done pretty damn good. That's another one I'm facing him this week, so he can just, I like to see that be like 2 or 3 defensive touchdowns. I'll be perfectly fine with that. But I don't really think that they're going to be a threat to the Broncos are going to be a threat to the Bills. I just think that Broncos can show up, but I think this is one of those things where Bills, after that win against the Steelers, they heard probably started hearing their Kool-Aid a little bit, and I think they take it the right way, not the wrong way.
Gotcha. Scott, what do you got? Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry, trying to do 2 things at once here. For me, when I look at this game, I think I have to say that because we're talking about the Packers game, right? I got mixed up.
Nope.
No, we're talking about the Bills and Broncos.
I already gave my Bills.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
I said
I think we're all caught up.
Yeah,
all right,
we're all caught up. The only one that we didn't share was Brian's. Brian had 41-13 Bills. So moving on to the Saturday night game, I'll go ahead and lead us off. Packers and Panthers. Panthers go into Green Bay for this game. I don't think they're going to be able to handle it. The Panthers haven't been able to be consistent all year. It's Aaron Rodgers and that offense with the Adams family, as they've been saying. It's just working. Everything's clicking. This is a wholehearted win for me for the Packers. I've got this 45-17, and I even think that the 17 is pushing it.
Yeah.
I thought my spread was bad. I didn't know I wasn't the worst one. So
What
I guess I'll
Ryan?
go 42-21 with the Packers. I mean, it could have been a lot closer game, but they don't have DJ Moore. He's on the COVID list. I can't imagine him coming off before this game. They have barely had CMC at all this year. Every time you think he's back, there's a new injury.
He's not playing this.
He's already listed as out. They just keep playing around with that. One day it's a shoulder, one day it's a hamstring, one day who knows. There's just not enough firepower to go around. You're not going to beat them with Robbie Anderson, whatever they got going on down there.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Packers win this one pretty handedly. I'm hoping Devontae Adams has 50 fantasy points in this game because I'm going to need him this week in the playoffs. I'm hoping Aaron Jones, the same thing. He's got 40 fantasy points. It's just Aaron Jones and the Devontae Adams show. I got Aaron Rodgers and the Packers winning this one 33-20. What do you got, Drew?
Yeah, I got Packers 38-21. I mean, the only thing that I think if Green Bay starts slow, and I mean Mike Davis has filled in admirably, but if you can run against Green Bay, if the Panthers are doing that right away, and the Packers slip a little bit, but I don't think that's happening. I think it's Aaron Rodgers is going to have a point to prove this year that this is not his last chance, because I still think he has a lot in the tank, but this is my chance. He's winning the MVP. He's the MVP.
Please tell me how in a Yahoo Pro League for $100 that Mike Davis was sitting on the waiver wire last week on my bye week, and I picked him up. My running backs are screwed. I've got injuries all over the place, and Mike Davis was just sitting there in the playoffs. I couldn't believe it. It's like they're gifting me money.
He had a stretch there in early, like a couple of weeks ago, where the last couple of weeks have been.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's the Packers.
He had a really good last week. Like, you run on the Packers. If they run on them and they falter, it'll be a long day. But
all right, let's run through these last two games here. We got the Browns and the Giants. Is there anybody that thinks the Giants are going to pull this out?
Yeah, Ryan
had this prediction in before the Browns-Ravens game, but I guess I'll stick with it.
Good God.
What were you smoking before that?
I didn't believe in them because they just really haven't beaten any decent teams. The Giants haven't had a good defense. Their offense has been terrible this year. I thought they were going to be a lot better, but then again, they don't have Saquon, which is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I just thought that they were just kind of a pretender, and I honestly thought they'd be a lot more beat up than they were from the Ravens game. I thought this would be one of those, like, the Ravens-Steelers play, and then the next week you play the Titans and everybody's hobbled already. I thought it'd be one of those type games is why I was picking it. I'm going to be wrong. I'm just going to mark this an L now, but I got Giants as 2017. I hope it comes through, but there's nothing in his head that still believes it.
I love the homerism, the hope that the Giants can somehow win to help the Ravens playoff chances.
There's nothing in there anymore. It's not
no. I just think it was a stupid pick, but yeah, everybody else is on the Browns with this. I've got the Browns winning it 30-20. Scott, what do you got?
I've got the Browns winning it 35-14. I think we all have at least one score here. I think I have the biggest differential of everybody. Brian has it 28-20. James has it 27-14. And Drew, what did you have it as?
Browns 24-17. But that Giants defense, I mean, they beat the Seahawks in Seattle. They traveled cross country, and I mean, they made Russell Wilson look like.
And they slowed down Arizona to almost nothing. I thought it was going to happen, but after watching the Browns yesterday, I don't believe it anymore. I hope I look real smart next week from yesterday, but not today.
If they can rattle just like they did with Seattle, I did not mean to rhyme. But if they can duplicate even a little bit of that early and maybe start having the Browns question themselves, that could be a different ball game.
All
right. Monday Night Football, AFC North battle. Pittsburgh Steelers go into, I don't know how much of a battle it is. Pittsburgh Steelers go into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals.
The Burless Bungles.
The Burless Bungles. I don't think this is going to go well for the Bengals. I got the Steelers winning this one 30-19. The Steelers lock up the division title with this win.
I got to be in bigger than that. I got to be in 30-10. I don't even think the Bengals can put any points on the board. To that point, James is 23-3. He has them only scoring 3 points. Brian has 27-10. It's not far off. Ryan, it looks like you have 20-10.
2010, I think it's going to run out like a 23 score. They'll sit down Ben, and maybe the Bengals will score a touchdown at some point. I don't think being competitive either. But I just don't. I don't really think the Steelers' offense is clicking like it was. They obviously can't run the ball, so you're not going to really put away the game at the end. Just keep scoring touchdowns. So I think Ben will run out to a lead and then quit it.
All right, Drew, blowout or not?
Blowout. Pittsburgh 30-7. I don't even have anything to say. It's the Bengals, and at this point, there's no Burrow.
If Big Ben played the whole game, that's where I'd see it too.
Yeah, there's nothing to say.
All All right, Scott, it's time for the Liquor Style Brew of the Week. And as usual, now as we're virtual, you are the only one that gets to enjoy this brew.
Hey, like a
said
beer
brew.
fairy that delivers these around before we get onto this thing.
Yeah, well,
Right. So what did Jerry and the crew up there hook you up with this week?
Hey, I will say I offered Fred to meet me there, and he didn't answer for like 3 hours.
Yeah, I didn't see the text for a few hours.
So this week, you guys would be impressed. This one, he switched it up. We do not have an IPA.
What? No IPA.
And we don't have something that's local.
Something bad's going to happen this week.
We don't have something that's even from this country.
Jaguars.
Yeah, don't say that.
Yeah. So this is the
They give you a 40? That's huge.
It's called the Hacker Shore.
I'm the only one drinking now. Just give me a 40.
It's the Hacker Shore It's from Hacker Shore Brewing Company, which is out in Germany. This is their Münchner Gold. It's a traditional Munich lager. It's 5.5% ABV, and it was actually the first lager ever brewed in Munich, Germany, in the 19th century, and continues to be brewed by the same company to this day with extremely little changes to their recipe. Has like when you first taste it, has like a malty, like stout, you kind of get that maltiness of a stout or a porter.
Yeah.
Kind of has that feeling, but then it starts after the first few sips, it starts getting real smooth. We got to get you guys out these. These are good.
Ryan's face is questioning your
I'm
judgment.
questioning this story again. This is like the Maryland beer with the California bridge on it. This is a beer from the 1800s in Germany that lived through 2 world wars with the same company. That building was blown up at least 6 times.
I didn't say they were in the same building. Same company can mean one guy passed the Don, and that illegal.
Well, I am drinking on the staple of Liquor Stop.
How can we not have Screwball? Is Drew the only one without Screwball?
You've been seeing me mix these. This is the Hershey's
the only one
lager
without Screwball, always.
with the Screwball. We make the Reese's lager. We got to make hashtag Reese's lager go viral and get Hershey to take care of this, so I don't have to do this myself.
Well, make sure you get by Liquor Stop. Tell them Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. All right, guys, it's time for some shell and tell.
How depressed is Ryan?
It's been a rough couple of weeks for the Terps. Obviously, they got hit with the COVID bug that we talked about on last week's show. It reared its ugly head yet again, as we didn't have our starting quarterback this week going into Rutgers in the last regular season of the game, a game that we had all kind of chalked up on our schedule as a win for the Terps. Well, I know Scott was a little excited about this game because it meant his boy, Lance Lejean, was going to get a shot, was going to get his, chance to shine. Yeah, he didn't shine very much. He needs a little bit of buffering.
Let's give you an hour notice. Let's see how well you buffer up there. Right? Let's see how well you
prepared. 2 years notice. He was here a year before Talia. He should have been more prepared than that.
Exactly. Yeah. But yet everything that we heard was that it was such a tight race that it had to be waited till the end to be announced who the quarterback was.
Coach speak.
Doesn't matter what coach speaks. Well, what coach speaks says at that level gets into a guy's head, and then you're hearing that out of your coach. He's getting start after start after start, even despite 2 games with 3 interceptions apiece.
You're making a lot of excuses for somebody when you didn't want to give Talia any excuses for some bad decisions.
Right, Scott, let me get my first point out and you'll be happy, I think, unfortunately for the Terps. So yeah, Lance looked absolutely terrible. A preferred walk-on is our 3rd string quarterback because we only had 2 scholarship quarterbacks going into this year with the retirement last year and some transfers out by Piggy. The preferred walk-on looked pretty good. I mean, he wasn't a world beater, but he looked poised and he looked ready for the moment. He made some big passes. We can
played it to Matha too, so he played right up the road.
We can get into this game more, but to give Scott a little help, all over the 247 boards, there's been articles about how COVID has reared its head again, and another backup will be forced back into duty. The only way to take that in my head, because you're talking about a backup playing again
and being forced into it,
the person can't get COVID twice on the team. So the only way that could happen is Lance was the backup for Talia, and now Lance is going to be the backup for this third stringer and that the third stringer got COVID. That's where my brain is. I'd almost guarantee you that our third string preferred walk-on has COVID this
Give
week.
him a name. His last name is Najarin. Golly, give him a name.
Well, at this point, I want him.
String guy.
For the non-Terp fans out there, that's what this is. This is a Division I Big Ten team with a preferred walk-on starting at quarterback was what we're hoping for. And
he looked good.
He looked real good. I think they put him on scholarship and keep him around here as well.
100%. I think they do. Considering you talk about not being prepared, if there's anybody who had a chance or should have been somewhat prepared, it would have been Lance. This guy, he had a number 22 jersey on. You think he was prepared? 22 is not even a fucking quarterback number. Like
Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, exactly. So look, for him to come out and Locks talked about it after the game, that, you know, he has been putting in a lot of work in practice and that he's got a good grasp on the playbook and a good grasp of the offense. That's been the one criticism of Lance, is that the word around town is that he hasn't been able to grasp the playbook as good as he should or as quickly as he should. And you could tell he just didn't look comfortable. I don't know if it was nerves. I'll be honest with you. I expected more from his mobility. I mean, yes, he was mobile, but he didn't have game-changing type speed that you would build a game plan. Speed. Right. Well, I think Talia is a smarter runner, and I think he's faster than Lance. From what I've seen in the two sample sizes, I think Talia is faster than Lance, which is mind-boggling because that's what we all heard about Lance coming in here, was that
he was the more mobile quarterback.
He was a junior Lamar type of player. You know, he had that kind of athleticism. I didn't see that at all in this game.
I don't know what we're gonna do. It's it's been a heck of a year. COVID keeps rearing its ugly head. We did have another big game from Jake Funk. He looked really good.
Yeah.
He ended up banging up his left shoulder. Is what happened that game. He was missing about three quarters of the fourth quarter. He was standing on the sidelines. Only time you saw him was to go out there and do the coin flip.
Right.
It was his senior day, supposedly his last home game. We have recently learned that that's not going to be true. They scheduled the Michigan State game at home for us this weekend. So he will get another shot at it. And it sounds like from his brothers, he get to play. But you talk about Lance needing to learn how to, you know, be a pro with it. That's exactly what we heard from Ellis McKinney in the Shell and Tell interview with him.
Right.
Was the talent's all world, but he just needs to learn how to like be in the moment, be into the playbook,
between the ears,
the practice, you know, get used to a practice schedule. That was all what Ellis talked about when we talked about Lance.
I think I'm going to play. I get and agree with what both of you are saying. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate in this scenario, in that it's real hard for a guy mentally that you're brought on as a 4-star quarterback onto this squad, redshirt freshman. You don't get the number of starts that we said in the games that we thought he should have started last year, or been at least more of a factor in. So you don't really get to show off what you're able to do. Then during the offseason, they bring in somebody else to compete for you. You make it a competition from what's being said. Now, if that's not what he was told, then maybe it's a different story. But publicly, it was a competition. This guy just edges you out. They're spending more time with him. They're focusing on him, because he's the guy that they're looking at, saying this is a guy that we can have for another 2 years, right?
It's a good damn thing they did, because Talia has put this college on the map again. And I think a lot of these recruits that are coming in and decommitting elsewhere and coming here, it's part of buying into Locks, but it's also part of buying into the direction of this university.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
And it starts with Talia,
but I'm saying, you know, to then take a guy that maybe you haven't been. I'm not dumb. I'm also not saying that I have any inside information. The two of you might have more information than I do, but I would question that they're putting as much effort into Lance LeJean as they are Talia.
I would agree with your sentiment if, to Ryan's point, if the preferred walk-on came on and had the same struggles. But he came on, had a grasp of the offense, moved the ball, put points on the board, did effective things, and he was the low man on the totem pole. So I understand what you're saying, and that's I think that's true with most backup quarterbacks, is how much work are they really getting in practice and whatnot. I do believe that there was a true competition early on in this year. Was there a wink, wink, nod, nod that Talia was probably going to be the starter? Probably so, because Locks was with Talia in Alabama, knew what he was getting, and had a year with Lance and kind of knew what he had with Lance. So it probably was a wink, nod. But I do think that they put in the work and effort with him.
I'm just saying, I feel like it could be a little bit of a demotivator for some guys. Not every guy, but for some guys, that type of thing can be a demotivator when you come in, you're given all this hype, and then you turn around and you're having to compete, and you're being told it's a true competition. It's called down to literally the last day before they announce who's doing it. I know that they were told beforehand, but it's all these things that some of these guys just can't handle it. And you know what? If he can't handle that type of mentality, that's fine. I understand that some guys just aren't cut out for that situation. But at the same time, I don't know that we fully saw them build. They built this offense around Talia. Did they not?
No, Loxley sticks to his offense. He brought in a quarterback that could run his offense.
That could run his offense, right?
But
so the offense was built around Talia. He built the offense around a guy that could run his offense.
I guess he built his offense
and then got a captain that could run the ship.
He built his offense around Tua in Alabama. He brought it to Maryland and goes, "Oh, Talia's the closest thing I can get to Tua. Let's go see what we can get.
Let's get a quick fix." And that's exactly what it was.
With Lance, we saw, and I think he hit a bigger home run than even Locks knew. But Kasim Hill had these same injury type problems. 2 years in a row, he had 2 big injuries, and then you saw him gun shy and scared. Now with Lance,
sounds like Josh Jackson.
You look at his QB1. You got to go back and watch the Netflix series QB1. He got hurt and didn't play half his senior season. Then he only played 3 games last year and left injured and didn't come back from like the second to last game of the year last year. Right. Maybe we're seeing a similar thing. Maybe it's just like this gun shyness. Maybe he is that fast. Maybe he was supposed to be Lamar, and now he's tentative and he's looking for the hit all the time. I don't know. But he's got another chance this week. I'd almost guarantee it. So let's see what he's got.
Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's not harp on the negative so much. I mean, like I said, I think the third string guy came in and did a good job.
He did.
Let's flip to the defensive side of the ball, because COVID also hit the defensive side of the ball, completely demolished our linebacker core as Chance Campbell, Ruben Hippolyte, Ayinde Ely, all out due to COVID. But I'll tell you what, despite that, they only gave up 27 points. And I think a lot of pressure was created off of the edges in this game. I think this defense as a unit played very well given the circumstances that they had in this game.
That info was slow rolled to the point where we're like, Chance Campbell's out. And then Fred texts me and goes, "Well, I guess it's Hippolyte time." And I'm like, "No, it's not. He's not there either. We got nothing. They're all gone." We still had a lot of good play from linebackers. This is, again, Indiana and this game. The biggest thing I'm seeing, of course, we lost to Rutgers, and that's terrible, and I can't believe it happened, especially the same year you beat Penn State. But all the games that we've had all of our talent, we've been in the competition. Even the games we've had half our competition. The depth on this team is so much better than I thought it was. That's all I'm taking from these losses.
And that's
100%.
That's one of the things I was going to
way better.
That was one of the things I was going to say. That one guy that stood out to me, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to assume he stood out to the two of you guys. Gote was all over the field in this game.
Yeah, he's been a very versatile player for that. He's kind of been that what's his name? Brooks role type
Antoine
of
Brooks.
Antoine Brooks. Yeah, he's kind of filled in that role really nicely.
Thank God they took Cross out of that role and let him play.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what was interesting in this game is that COVID didn't only affect the players, but it affected the coaching staff, and defensive coordinator John Hoke wasn't in this game either. So they actually had defensive back coach Henry Baker calling the shots in this game. First time he's ever called shots as a defensive coordinator. So for him to come out there and put up that kind of performance, as shorthanded as he was with the leadership, you know, not having your captain out there in Chance Campbell, not having your superstar freshman in Ruben Hippolyte out there, and still being able to do the things that they did was pretty impressive.
It shows your coach knows his team. You know, even in the back end, you know, a secondary coach knows that defense well enough to just step in and know who's going to be able to take the role and what play calls and scheming you need to do to be successful. It's impressive. We don't have just depth at the, you know, at the linebacker level and on the defense and the cornerback. We actually have depth at the coaching staff.
Yeah, we got 2 players back from COVID this week. One looked like nothing ever happened in Tareeb Steele, but Nick Cross looked 3 or 4 steps slow. I mean, he was behind on plays all over the place. He is a top talent, 5-star recruit, big time player, and he was out of the picture most times they were throwing that deep ball.
I agree with you on that, but how much better is this secondary than we ever imagined?
Oh, it is absolutely, and I think Kroos will be back. It's just his first week back from whatever the hell COVID was to him. But I think that, again, you said most people were asymptomatic. I would be willing to put money that Nick Kroos was not, because he was dragging.
Yeah, he looked like he was like you said with Lamar. He looked like he was out of breath sometimes when he got beat on something or there was a pass his way. He's standing there, you just watch the breath coming off, like he was out of breath at times, and so he just wasn't there.
You kind of glanced over his name, and you can't glance over his name because this kid has probably been one of the best players overall on this defense this season, and he's a true freshman. True
young
freshman.
Boy.
Tareeb Still. And in the first week, the first game in that onslaught, I thought he looked like a freshman. But let me tell you, every week since then, he has gotten better and better and better. And you see him in more man-to-man coverage, leaving him out there on an island. And he plays the ball well. He plays like a savvy senior to me. And this kid is a true freshman. I think this kid could be a top draft talent, like a first or second round pick. We may only get 3 years out of this kid because he looks that good.
If he keeps up even half this pace, then he's only going to be here 3 years. This kid I went back and looked because I was just to get a true freshman to start all the games. Now, granted, he was out with the one with COVID, but believe me, he'd been starting if he didn't have COVID.
Right.
Just to get a true freshman to start, I started looking back at some of the top players. I'm just picking them off my head because there's no way to really Google search that. Who are the true freshmen that started at Maryland? Right. So I was just picking out the NFL talents, the big time players from Maryland going back. And almost everybody didn't contribute till they were a sophomore, like a redshirt sophomore, much less a true freshman. The only true freshmen that really had big time plays in the last 20 years was Stephon Diggs and Will Likely. Those were the only ones. And they both had, all conference type situations. Will Likely was more on the special team side. Stephon Diggs did it all. He was a kick returner and wide receiver. But Will Likely did also play some good defense. This is historic type Maryland stuff. This kid's going to be a big deal.
For sure. Now, they did make the announcement this morning for the all Big Ten teams. Jake Funk did get named to the third team all Big Ten. Talia, Rakim, Demas, Johnny Jordan, and I feel like I'm missing one. If 5 players in total got named to like the honorable mention group. Yeah, but Rakim being in there as a freshman, that's what I'm saying. This recruiting class is paying off dividends already. We got a great recruiting class coming in, which continues to build. We talk about having such a good linebacker core and a defensive line coming in. This linebacker core is about to take another step with some of these recruits that could potentially be flipping to us. There's a lot to be excited about with this defense in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, this was a number 33 class that you're seeing these NFL caliber talents in, with the Rakim and Still. We're already at the number 25 with no flips. We are right in the mix with the only rumored person to steal a 4-star linebacker out of Michigan, and we're the top 2 for a 5-star linebacker between Tennessee, who we just decommitted from 2 weeks ago, which would be weird to go back there,
Makes
and
no
us.
Right.
The rumor is he decommitted from Tennessee for Auburn. Auburn fired his coach, so there is a chance he goes back to Tennessee. But you make the top 2 on a 5-star ever. It puts Maryland and Loxley's name out there and gets this momentum rolling. And if we stick with just the people that are committed now, which it sounds like they are all golden to sign tomorrow and be available for spring ball, if we so happen to get lucky enough for that to happen, this is a great class and it will be historic.
So here you guys, Santa Claus here. Come Santa Claus right down baby. Santa Claus lane. Here's a bag of money.
You know what I think? You know what I hope Santa Claus comes with? I hope Santa Claus comes with somebody who can get the penalties down on this freaking team. I hate to be a downer here, but one of the things that's got to change, so many penalties.
It's a trend with both the Ravens and the Terps.
44 penalties for 395 yards through what? 5 games? Are you kidding me? This is there's 128 yards in this game alone on, I think it was 10 or 11 penalties. You got to be kidding me. It's killing them. So my question to the two of you is simply, why so many penalties, and what can they even do to reduce these penalties for next year?
It's a young football
tightrope.
team.
And it's a tightrope in football. You can't win with choir boys. That's not how it's worked. We just talked about the Browns with Myles Garrett being their man of the year. We just talked about Kareem Hunt getting the second chance to run ragged. Like, this is how you win. That tough streak that gets them through life like that makes them great football players. It just does. So are they able to control that for the 60 minutes and get the job done? And then also this year, we went even one step further, and we're scraping out talent from the JUCO ranks. Right. Usually the people that are in the JUCO ranks and can play big Power 5 football in the Big Ten are there because of grades and personality issues. And that's the reason they're at JUCO in the first place. So there's a lot of things going on. Now, I don't know how to make an excuse for Jashwan Jones.
Yeah, there it is.
Just him.
I was waiting for you to bring him up.
That's just who he is. He's not JUCO. I can't blame it on that. I love Jay Sean
Jones, but he's
talented.
He's so talented, but he's got a little prick in him. He's got a little prick in him that he doesn't know how to control. He doesn't know how to control it at times. He's got that
Just
that
stand
edge
in front of them. Stop hitting them.
Right. Like, make the play. Your mind is right. You're making the smart play. You just don't have to be such a big ass about it.
And do you know what makes me even more mad than making the big hit that's getting the penalty? It's the standing over and flexing on them. You're bringing attention to try to get a flag. Even if you made the wrong decision, you made a late hit, just turn and walk away quickly. Maybe you'll get away with it. But when you're flexing on somebody and standing over them, they might not even call the personal foul for the hit. They might call it for taunting.
So it's consistent with them.
It's across, but that's not even Deshaun. That's everybody. And everyone that had a personal foul yesterday was proud of it.
And that's one of the things that I kept saying in our chat the other day is, to me, this comes down to coaching with discipline. You have to coach these guys and teach them discipline. That's part of what football in college is about, is teaching these kids discipline and making sure that they're making solid choices and making sure they're understanding the repercussions for their choices. I don't know that I'm seeing that with all of these penalties. And I know it's a young team. I get that. But you got to coach with discipline. You can't always be the coach. You can't always be the coach that you're going to get your quarterbacks here. But I didn't see one damn time that I saw him going over and running over to Jones and yelling at him for the shit that he's doing.
Right. Well, before we move on, because you bring up coaching, this is something that irked my nerves the other day. And this tweet came from a friend of mine, a guy that actually helped me get my start in the podcast world. He helped me with kind of figuring some things out, and I respect his opinion, but he put a tweet out there. It was just a general tweet about Loxley, and it really, really got under my skin. I wanted to see what Ryan's opinion on this. He said, just a reminder, Mike Loxley is now 8-43 as a head coach, 8-43. And it seemed to me, that's all it said, seemed to me like he's trying to say that Mike Loxley isn't a good head coach. And if you're just looking at the snapshot of his career as a head coach, 8-43 doesn't look good. And you'd say anybody that's 8-43 is a bad head coach. I get that. But there's so much more to the development and the story of Mike Loxley. You know, that 8-43 is tainted by the years that he was out there in San Diego State or wherever the fuck he was, New Mexico State, as a young head coach and recruiting in an area
of a program.
Right. A disaster of a program, recruiting in an area that he wasn't familiar with.
You can't get kids from Baltimore to go to New Mexico. There's nothing there.
Right. And this is all prior to him going to Alabama and learning under the tutelage of one of the best head coaches in the history of football and Nick Saban. Right. So I get that you're looking at 8-43 as bad, but that frustrates me more than anything, because if you don't see the improvements in this program from where they were after the Jordan McNair situation to where they are now as an entire program, then you are just blind to what's going on at the university.
There's definitely improvements on the recruiting front.
In all aspects.
There's recruiting on the we've seen the social media front and the image and how much he's really helped the image. But at the same time, it's one of those things that we questioned the decisions last year, right? I think you guys may be forgetting this is the same guy that was trotting Josh Jackson out there time after time after time again. But yet, hold on, I'm going to say this and you guys are going to give me shit for it. But yet it's the same guy that Lance Lejeune throws 2 interceptions and he's done. Talia throws 3 in 2 separate games, and he was still contingent on our starters. I'm not saying that Talia is not a good player by any means. I think he is the better player. My whole point is there are some decisions that make you question, is there more to that 8-43? I get what you're saying with you have to look at the whole picture, but I'm also saying look at your whole picture as a coach. He's great at certain things. And if you're great at certain things, you need to surround yourself with people who are great at the things that you're deficient at. And I don't know that has happened. We see the discipline problems with all the penalties and the choices. We see the fact that he went out there last year with the Josh Jackson situation. I don't care if you don't want to have Lance Lejeune out there or not. I don't care what's happening. As bad as he was, there was no reason to trot him out there, but yet you were doing it anyway. You had a guy that could come in and be able to fill his shoes without a problem.
The Lance and the Talia argument, though, is null because you can't look at it as, well, Lance only threw 2 interceptions and you took him out, and Talia threw 3 and you didn't take him out. It's what did he do in between all those interceptions? Lance did jack shit in between all of those interceptions that he threw. At least Talia, again, yes, were they poor decisions to throw the ball? Yes, they were poor decisions, but they were accurate throws, right? There wasn't a problem with accuracy. Talia made some really, really good throws. He was
accurate to throw it to the other team. You're right.
Lance didn't make any of that at all while he was out on the field.
And Locks knew where he was at. Locks is self-aware, and you can't say he's not self-aware. Locks knows that this record's going to pop up again and again and again, and therefore he didn't have the 5-year cushion some of these coaches have to grow a program slowly. He knew he had to hit the transfer market and hit it hard. He had to hit the JUCO market and hit it hard. He couldn't do this with high school kids.
All I'm saying is I agree with both of you on everything that you've said. All I'm saying is don't get so high that you're forgetting some of the other decisions that are happening on a regular basis. That's all I'm saying.
I think in-game decisions, I'm still very critical of Loxley, but outside that, in the program-type decisions, I've been very supportive, and I see no problems. The Josh Jackson thing was so frustrating in the moment, but who knows? Maybe the fact that he went to Talia's family and said, look, I made this promise on my last transfer that he was our guy, he was our starter, and I stuck with it through thick and thin because that's the promise I made to him. And that got Talia here. Maybe not the whole year of Josh Jackson was all worth it. I don't know. I'm not privy to these conversations. We made a lot of like the wink, wink, nod, nod agreements. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe there's like an actual agreement.
But to that,
that he's wanting.
To that thought, also the one thing I would tell you to say is, and this is where I stand. I still want to see improvement and continued progression out of Talia. If I don't,
I would love it. If COVID would stop hitting us, maybe that could happen.
But I'm saying, I guess my point is you have to remember that there is a potential. There is unknown, and as there is with anybody, Talia could fall into a rut just like Josh Jackson did. At times, Josh Jackson looked not anywhere near like Talia, but he looked good. But then at times he just looked horrible, and it was continued decision. So that's my point.
We played 5 games. Yeah. That would be the first week of October in a normal season. That would be his first
5 games and 4 that he was able to suit up for.
All right,
and then in those 5 games, he lost all of his talent in 2 of them.
Fair enough. The last thing I want to bring up and get both of your reactions for, because this made it actually made some national headlines because there were people questioning should he be suspended, should he be not allowed to play in this game against Michigan State, is the play where Ami Finau, is it Amy or Ami? Finau.
It's Ami
Finau. The dirty play on Vedral, where I don't care who you are, the video shows he's down and Finau just takes the ankle and twists.
Yeah.
Very clear, deliberate dirty play.
I saw it happen live, and it was a complete bullshit play. And I would say that if it's our player or if it's against our player or whatever, it's a dirty play. There's no room for that in the game. I do think that if the refs would have saw it, he should have been ejected in that game. Maybe he does get suspended for the rest of the year and he doesn't play in this Michigan State game, because to your point, not only did he have the ankle, but after the play, he's rolling the ankle and then adds the twist at the end to the point where if you slow it down, you can see a pop. And when it pops, that's when he's done. He has to come out of the game. There's no room for that in the game. And again, if that's happening to us and that's Talia out there getting his ankle rolled over like that, we are all livid and starting a riot on social media about it.
So this is a JUCO kid. This is his 5th game with
out
Locks.
of Indy, right?
Yes. And if anybody's watched anything about Indy, this is what they lived with. This is how they won. This is why they're hated. Like, they are mean mother effers that just get the job done. But Locks, to his coaching and tutelage, has already made this player sit down. He talked with him, told him that it was unacceptable. He made him call both the player and the head coach and write a letter to the head coach about the situation, and has suspended him for the first half of the Michigan State game. So that might not be enough. Maybe we think he should be suspended the rest of the year. Maybe he shouldn't be allowed to play a bowl game. But there's something. There is some discipline. It's not, I'm a player's coach, I'm closing my eye and nothing happens.
Hold on a second, Ryan. Are you really saying that's discipline? This guy potentially could have ruined a guy's career. His potential, whatever potential he had. I don't know. Who knows where this kid's going to go? He ruined any potential shot at this. We have no idea what the repercussions are for this player. And you think writing a letter and sitting out for the first half of a game is enough repercussion? Would you be saying the same thing if that happened to us?
Of course not, because I'm a fan. But Scott, if targeting is the same thing, if you go in helmet to helmet, crown of the head trying to kill somebody, you could end both you or that player's career. And if you get thrown out in the second half of a game, you are ejected from that for targeting and the first half of the next game. It's already a precedent in that.
It's
outside the lines.
There's a difference. There's a complete difference. And Fred, I want to get your opinion on this. There's a complete difference between targeting where you're trying to make a tackle, and yes, you do drop your head, you're trying to hit a guy hard, versus the guy is on the ground, you are holding him, and you deliberately twist his ankle. You know he's on the ground. The whistle has happened. The play is over. There is a deliberate move there that is completely separate from targeting.
I understand your frustration and I understand your sentiment with it, but I do believe that, when you're leading in with your head, there's malicious intent in that too. Are there some targeting calls that are BS because it just so happened that the way the play worked out that, they got called for targeting because the guy dropped down and whatever happened. But then there's the other guys that are the malicious intent, the guys that are going in and leading with their crown, which can do just as much damage, if not more, because you're talking about helmet to helmet, which you're talking about brain damage, that get to Ryan's point, that get the same type of penalty. I understand where you gotta, especially with some of these younger kids, you gotta really make it a point and really make it, I guess, serve its purpose, right? You got to have the repercussions be consistent, right? You can't say, well, this incident is worse than this, so we're going to do 3 games on this, but we're only going to do a half a game on that. You can't do that. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a dirty play. It doesn't belong in football. I think this is almost the way Locks handled this is almost like a parenting way, like how you would expect a parent to handle. I can remember being a kid and getting in fights with kids in the neighborhood, and my mom would be, well, we're going to walk you down to Miss so-and-so's house, and we're going to apologize to him, and we're going to apologize to his mom for you, doing what you did. And that's how I learned, to be respectful and not do the things that I did. So this was, I think, could the punishment have been harsher? Yes. But I think you got to keep it consistent.
And at this point, they've admitted fault. They've said that it was a dirty play. He did it on purpose. If the Big Ten wants to do more than a half a game, the Big Ten can. Like, they've put it out there. They're not denying the fact that this was malicious intent. So if the Big Ten sees fit that it's more than this, they will. I just don't think – I think because of the targeting rule, it fits. If the targeting rule was different, then maybe it wouldn't. Or if there was no such thing as you get kicked out of one game and miss a first half. But I think it fits along with it.
All right, so we got to wrap this up real quick because we're going long on the Terps. But I do want to get your take, Ryan, real quick.
Long on the Terps.
We're going long, but we got to talk. We got one more game on the schedule as we're getting to this Big Ten tournament game thing that now I guess we're playing against an East team where we're supposed to be East and West. Who the hell knows what the Big Ten's even doing at this point? But we're playing at home against Michigan State. Michigan State, we were supposed to have played earlier in the year, but obviously that game got canceled. They're sitting at 2-5 on the year, coming off a loss to Penn State, 39-24. Their only wins this year were against Michigan and Northwestern, which is pretty impressive considering Northwestern's playing for the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. But do you see anything scary about this team? To me, there's nothing that jumps off of this table about this team that's really scary to me at all.
No, there's something scary about this team. It's the other team we're playing COVID. Again, we're going to be, I'm 99% sure we're back to Lance Lejeune under center. That does nothing for our passing game. We have one of the best receiving cores in the country, much less Big Ten, and we're not going to use them. Now, Fleet Davis played in this last game. We didn't really talk about him. His first game back from suspension for his DUI last year. Again, that was a big punishment for a very long time. Most schools would have been like, 1 game, get back in there. So Loxley does have some punishment in him. He played really well, especially even after Funk went down. So if we can get Funk back at full strength, which it sounds like we will, it was like a stinger injury in his shoulder, should be back to playing just fine. Who's leading the nation in yards per carry. And again, third string honorable mention, which I at least put him second. Ibrahim's a fucking man, so I know the third might not be sleight of slant.
Right.
We have to win like the Ravens just did, and if we don't play like the Ravens just did and just run the ball over and over again, I don't think we can win. I think that you have to run the ball, do reverses, do bubble screens. That, God, it makes me hurt to say it. That Randy Edsall shitty offense, that might be the only way that we can get this done with Lance, unless Lance just completely changes. I
think the defense is what's going to keep us in this game, honestly, because
defense has been great.
They've got a quarterback named Lombardi, so he's got a good name, right? He's got a historic name, but he's 53% completion percentage on the year, 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Like, nothing scary at the quarterback position. Really, what's kept them in games this year is big plays. Their wide receiver, Jalen Naylor's 26 receptions for 515 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging 19.8 yards per catch. So it's big plays, splash plays like that that's kept them in. That's why I say I think it's going to be plays like Tareeb Still, Nick Cross, that secondary making plays and pick sixes, defensive turnovers are going to keep the Terps in this game.
Unless there's more medical issues, you should get Ace Ely back this week. The timetable fits to get back from COVID for the 21 days. So unless he's got other medical stuff going on because of it, he should get back. You're still out Chance Campbell and Ruben Hippolyte, so you're still very thin at linebacker core, but that does help.
One guy on the defensive side for Michigan State to keep an eye on, cornerback Shakur Brown. He's got 5 interceptions on the year. That's the team total in interceptions. He's got all of them. He's got 5. He's the only guy to keep an eye on the defensive side of the ball.
Don't throw the ball.
That's right. So early prediction. You don't have to give me a score. Do you think the Terps win this game or not?
No. What Lance showed me, man, if he's actually under center, and I can't find a different way to read that article. Again, no one has said that he's out and the Lance back's in there, but the only way for this to be true, for the backup to be forced back into the starting role, is Lance. That's it. That's the only way. All right,
so I'm going to pull Scott's card on this one, and I'm going to say, well, he's got a week of preparation, not an hour of preparation.
Right. There is nothing. Believe me, this helmet's in here. I love the Terps more than I love any other sports team. I really hope I'm wrong, and I hope for Jake Funk's sake I'm wrong, and I just really hope they get it in. But if Lance plays as bad as he did in that game, I can't see it, no matter how bad Michigan State is, because I don't think they're a good team, but COVID seems to be fucking great. They're kicking our asses here.
I got a feeling they win it. It's in a sloppy game. It's an ugly game. It is not going to be what we watched last night. It is going to be a sloppy game, but I do
also,
think
Fred, I hate to tell you, I'm off this Saturday, which means they're canceling this game. I have not.
That's inevitable.
Off for
I don't even know why we're talking about
it. In the last 6 weeks.
I don't even know why we're talking about it in this.
The only game I was off was the first one.
Scott, what do you see happening in this game?
My only key to this game is field the whole fucking team.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. If we
fielded a whole team, we would be wiping the floor with Michigan State. I'm confident in that.
Right. And that's where I think it's going to be good. I do think, Fred, you stole the words out of my mouth. I do think we see a little bit more out of Lance with the extra preparation and a full preparation.
You're right.
If that's the case, I did have a question for you. The article that you were talking about, it specifically starter role is going to be forced back into a starter role.
Backup will be forced back into a starter role.
There's no other way to read that.
Unless somebody managed to get COVID twice, it's the only starter or backup that has dropped down the.
Well, it's the only backup. It's the only backup that's actually started a game.
Oh, there's lots of backups to start the game. COVID's been playing. We've got 5th string people playing all over the place.
No, but I'm saying as far as quarterback.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the only way to read it. So I do think you're right. I do think it's Lance. I do think we see him go in. I think this is his shot. He's got a little bit more preparation. I wonder if this is maybe, and I'll give him credit, if this is them saying, Lance, here's your shot. You've had all week to prep. You need to do this. But if you don't drive down the field in your first 2 or 3 drives, you're done. I'm okay with that at that point because now I have an excuse. I think it messes with a guy's mind when hours beforehand, especially we're not talking, these aren't pro athletes yet. These are guys that are
saw this in the Ravens game. What happens with his backup? So now we had a preferred walk-on was Lance's backup last week. Is it just a regular walk-on this week? Do we have some true freshman that just was like, it'd be fun to play football this year?
We got the punter. Punter will be out there throwing passes, whatever. Drew, I saw you trying to raise your hand. What do you got, Drew?
I'm always just going to sit here during these segments. I won't lie. I'm a Fairweather fan.
Drew, I will get your ass at a game whenever they open the stadium again. You're going to change your tune.
Look, I like the atmosphere. I've been to a couple. It's awesome. 2 things. When's the game on Saturday? When's the game on Sunday? Saturday?
Noon.
I'm
no, 7:30. It's a 7:30 night game. I'm sorry. Last week was noon.
I'm going to mute my phone because I don't want to miss anything, and then I wake up to 100 text messages like this Saturday. And 2, I really hope Lance does amazing, just so Scott makes the segment next week even more entertaining.
I'll be sick next week if that's the case.
I'm gonna sign up for overtime. I can do this. I'll sign up for overtime on Saturday, and we can have this game.
I think this is an important game for the university, and I think they're going to do everything that they can to win this game. This isn't a game of just, let's go out there, go through the motions, fold it up, and call it a season. Finishing 3-3, I think, goes a long way in getting some of these recruits, right? Just showing that you were able to do what you did in a shortened season against all the odds with all the COVID restrictions that you've had as far as player ability goes. I think this goes a long way in recruitment.
This is not a see what you have game. This is you go out to win to prove that your program is kind of turning the corner. Because I think if you lose to this 2-5 team, I don't know that you can say that we've turned the corner yet because and I know COVID's happened. I get that, but there's a lot of other things.
The good news for us on the recruiting process is it doesn't really matter what the result of this game is because early signing period is tomorrow. My Christmas was canceled with the season ticket, so tomorrow is my Christmas. If we keep all these signings, I'll just be that fanboy that goes, next year we're the boss. Dallas Cowboys over here.
All right, let's go. All right, I'm going to lead us off in the rundown tonight. We've got just a few quick things in the rundown.
How about you and Drew cover the rundown, and Ryan and I will take a back seat on this?
Oh, is that what this is? Drew's
friend. That show and tell was so good. Just clip that audio and put it out on the show.
We're just going to make it a show. I got it. Already on. My mind is already here.
All Scott because I didn't. I know the gist of what happened in the first.
All right,
segment, but this might be all Scott on this one.
All right, rundown here. Let's start with this. I'm sure you guys all saw this because it made national headlines. Scary situation. Some of you guys know I am a Florida Gators fan. Crazy that Keontae Johnson. So this kid did have COVID back in, I think it was August, and he was coming out of a timeout. Literally turned around, came out of the timeout, and just went down. Straight down, landed flat on his face. They took him to the hospital. I think it was Florida General up in Gainesville, and he winds up having to be put into a medically induced coma. And then they pulled him out of it on Monday afternoon. And they said that he was following, simple commands. They are saying, that the part of the cause of Johnson's clap is really unknown, but they're wondering if this is, I guess it's myocarditis, which is a viral infection.
Leave that to Ryan.
Myocarditis.
Myocarditis.
Infection of the heart.
There you go. So
I know a little bit being the nurse's husband. I know a little
bit. That's me too. I am a registered nurse on the psych unit. I'm the husband of the ICU nurse.
There you go. So, crazy situation with this guy because everything, all of the reactions. This guy was a top forward for the Gators, putting up good numbers, and for him to just come out of a timeout and fall flat on his face. Nobody had any indication. He had just had a big alley-oop in the sequence beforehand. a lot of different things going on here. But for him to come out, the thing that was crazy was that the Gators players, and I forget who they were playing, all the players on the court like were in shock, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to react. They wound up finishing the game, but crazy situation on this, that COVID is affecting guys and the long-term effects that honestly we still don't even know.
Yeah.
Well, there was
go ahead, Drew.
I was just say I'll just say Armstead for the Jags, where he had it like over the summer, and then right before the season got it again, and they were like, or never healed from something COVID related, and they were like, look, well, hopefully he comes back next year and he's over it, but you don't know the long term effects.
Right. That's the thing, is it's so scary, is you just don't know what this is going to be long term for a lot of people. And I heard the audio clip of the radio broadcast of the game. I think Scott, you might have sent it.
I sent it to you guys. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was.
They were in shock. Like they're announcing it, going, Keontae Johnson he just came out of the timeout and hit the floor. His face hit the floor. Yeah. They're attending to him now, and like it's just the way that they said it. I'll have to try to find it again and retweet it, but it's just crazy to hear that. These are guys that you've seen some crazy things in your time, but you've never seen a player come out of a timeout and literally fall flat on his face.
Yeah. So our thoughts and well wishes are with him and his family and his friends right now, man. Yeah. Hopefully he makes a full recovery, bounces back from this, because
the Florida coaches took a lot of heat for finishing that game from the backseat Twitter world that are gonna make decisions for you. But all the coach could do was he asked his players. He said, "We can walk now. I understand it. It's up to you guys."
He offered them to take the forfeit.
Yeah. Apparently, unanimously, all the players said that the player would want them to finish, and they did it. Whatever they could. So if it's up to the players at that moment, that's the only way you can do it. There's no right decision. We can't ask this guy what he wants us to do. So you ask his teammates, and you see where it's at. Yeah. You don't force him to do anything.
You ask the people that probably know him best at it better than anybody else. So
and that's those kids.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So the next story, quickly, Cleveland baseball team. That's right. I didn't say Cleveland Indians because they're dropping the Indians' name starting in 2021. They originally came out and said they're going to drop it in this offseason. And then they I think they went and went, it's going to cost us how much money to change it this offseason? Okay, we're going to change it next season. Go ahead, Drew.
That's my issue.
I agree with you. That's why I brought it up.
You're on a different side of history. Redskins sounded way worse than Indians, but the connotations are horrible. If you're sincere about what your plans in changing the name, to change a culture, to put racism in the rear view, you don't do what the Washington football team did, which was jet set
you're the third person.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was 1 and 2. You were 3.
But you don't like you jet set of changing the name of the Redskins. Yeah, because your team was going under scrutiny with the Dan Snyder and all the other people's little cronies with all the sexual allegations and stuff. The same with the Indians. If you really want to be on the right side of history and change a culture and change the name and be proactive, then you're doing it now. You don't say it and then change your mind because, like you said, well, never mind. Money dictates we have to wait a year. So it's going to be less racist in 2022 than it is 2021.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think I'm torn on this because I understand why they're doing it. I understand the big picture of why they're doing it. And if they feel like that's the betterment for their franchise and the betterment for putting, like you said, racism in the past and that kind of thing, I get that. But where does this end? You know what I mean? Like we talked about this before. You've got the Chiefs, you've got the Braves, you've got the Seminoles, you've got all of these other things that have similar
connotations,
connections, right? Yeah. Like when does this end?
That's where like I get it, and I think that's where I have the bigger issue, like Drew said, where they come out and say we're going to do it next year, and then it turns literally hours later.
Yeah,
you say, "Oh, we're going to do it we meant to say we're going to do this for 2021. We said next season, not this coming season." That's kind of how they played it off. Okay, fine. Like I get it. There was a different situation versus the Redskins.
Well, let me ask you this though: was it a team release? Like, was it a team press release that said that they were going to do it now and then they reneged on it? Or was it just, or was it just some journalist that said, oh, I talked to a source that said that this is what the Indians are going to do or Cleveland's going to do, and then it got corrected by the Indians franchise?
Cleveland Indian ownership made the decision public. Then hours later, because it happened in the morning, then hours later, they came back and said, we meant to say this. We meant to say we're going to do 2021.
Yeah, that's a bad
look. That's where it was at, because I saw it when it first came out, and I was like, okay, like I get it. You know, it's there. And then I kind of, you know, I'm playing through my mind, and I'm like, okay, you know, where do you draw the line? Because you got the Braves, you got the Chiefs, you've got the Seminoles, you've got so many colleges and other you know, places around the country that are going to probably start following suit. And to an extent, it's good. It's a good thing, right? But where's the line about what you care about and what's important, right? Racism, absolutely important. If it has a racist connotation, I get it. I 1000% get it. But then it does open the door. I'm not going to be naive that it's not going to open a door to other things. One that somebody laughed when they said it to me, and they were joking, but they were serious at the same time. They said, well, tigers are an endangered species.
Nah. This is what I'm saying. Where does it end? Exactly.
And I kind of, they said it jokingly, but at the same time,
there's no way.
I know that, and I know that's completely different than something that has racist connotations. What I'm saying is there.
I want the White Sox to be removed.
It's just
it's just called the Black Sox.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
What about the Red Sox?
I just don't. That's what I'm saying. Is where do you draw the line with this stuff?
I think people as mascots is going to go, and I think that's where it drops. There's to go much further than that. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah,
that's what.
Any kind of people, minors, like any kind of job or person, like, because when you make a actual mascot, when you make an actual mascot of that person, it becomes a caricature, and caricatures at their heart make fun. Like, that's what they are. So it's very hard to draw the line there. Now, believe me, I think that everyone should just be offended in their own bubble and get over it and move on. But where we are, I understand what's happening, and you can't have a mascot that's not a caricature of something. Yeah. And so you're poking fun of it.
Good, Drew.
But in defense, a couple of years ago, they kind of did away with the Chief Wahoo.
Right.
There's no Chief Wahoo in this. It's just a C. I'm not saying that that's good enough, but maybe I am saying that's good enough. I mean, Indians isn't a good thing, but do we still say, like, do we always say Native American reservations?
Right.
Do we still slip up and say, you know, you're telling the story of the Pilgrims and Indians? Like, you don't mean it. Like, Redskins, that was a serious connotation to hatred. But to me, if you
Indians was just a mistake. They thought they were in India.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you distance yourself enough to say, like, we changed the mascot even well ahead of really anything serious with the Redskins changing their name, then I'm not saying that's not good enough, but at the same time, where's the genuineness of changing? Oh, we're going to change the name. Well, not yet. Like, that's still my main point, is to bring it back. That's still my main point, is you put it out there. Well, then by February, have a freaking name.
Yeah. Well, and there's
or don't like the Washington football team.
Well,
it doesn't cost you anything to be the Cleveland baseball team.
CS Grimace on YouTube says, and he technically to an extent is right. Yankees has been defined as a derogatory term at times. Right? Those damn Yankees, right? That's that, and it wasn't in reference to the Yankees baseball team. It was in reference.
I love the Yankees to have to change their name. I'm not going to lie. This is
I like it. But I think we all get the point. There's a line there. It's and we don't know it. And I think history is going to tell us the line. It's as simple as that. History is going to tell us the line, and we're going to get to a point where the minority will then turn to the majority and say, "Wait, we've gone too far. This is, it's going to be the blues and the reds and the greens and the oranges and the purple." Like, that's what we're going to be naming teams after colors instead of, naming teams after mascots. You can talk about characters and everything, and you're spot on. That's exactly what every every single mascot out there is a character. Period. 100% true.
So, what do we? While we're telling the topic, what do you think the name will be, or what do you like? What's an idea of the name that you think would be replaced?
So they're talking about bringing back the old name of the Spiders.
Yeah,
which is what it was prior.
That would be my choice, just to kind of like.
It has
Cleveland LeBron Jameses.
I have a weird feeling like this is going to become some. Hey, Twitter, what do you think? And
Yeah,
be some
we got a year to
plan.
decide.
Drew, shout out to CS Grimace on YouTube as well. That's your older brother.
Oh, right.
There we go. There we go.
Didn't know.
Right.
He didn't even know. But yeah, the Cleveland Spiders is the kind of the top Florida name out there. I actually have somebody that I work with, huge Cleveland Indians fan. I talked to him today. He was saying, I am all for the idea of the Spiders. They were from 1887 to 1899. So I actually had a kind of a short run as the Cleveland team, the Cleveland baseball team there in Cleveland. But that's one of those things that I think it has the historical piece to it. There's no necessary connotation that I'm aware of. So I think they go that route, but I could also see them turning around and going, we're going to do something completely different.
I hate spiders.
Everyone can agree just about, so we're good on this.
My wife lost
a spider as quick as I see.
My wife lost a portion of her leg because of a spider. I'm offended. Like
the last thing I want to say about the whole like dropping Chief Wahoo point that Drew made is, just because we take it off the current uniforms does not stop a majority of fans to keep bringing that stuff back out into the stadium.
Yeah.
Of course, just changing it to the Spiders, there's going to be that one random dude that still wants to wear his Chief Wahoo shirt, but it makes it a lot less likely.
And this is kind of why I was saying before about the Redskins or about the Washington football team, not only changing the name, but changing the color scheme as well, because
that would really help to stop the old stuff coming out.
Your chances of that happening, if you keep that same color scheme, are far more likely than if you changed it all together.
Yeah. And then brings in my little bit of disingenuousness where like you see the marketability and changing, and I got the all new jerseys, you got the all new gear, all this stuff. And that's kind of what it boils down
to.
So
Yankees do not want to change anything. So I will be really I've never thought about that, and I will smile.
All right. Let's get through the last thing in the rundown real quick. We haven't talked a whole lot of Orioles in the past several weeks. Major news coming out this past week regarding the Orioles as an organization, and that is two pieces. One, early last week, they actually signed the contract with the Aberdeen Ironbirds to continue the affiliation there. But later in the week and into the weekend, we learned that the Frederick Keys will no longer have an affiliation with the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, that was pretty eye-opening, because I've played up there at Harry Grove Stadium up in Frederick. It's a beautiful stadium, and there's always fans at that stadium. Like it draws good for a minor league stadium. So I was surprised with that. I was obviously happy that Aberdeen's going to be staying along as an affiliate with the Orioles, and they're actually moving from low A to high A. They're actually taking over for the Frederick Keys spot in the ranks of things. Delmarva will stay as kind of like the low A entry level. But Aberdeen will now go to
32-ounce beers.
Yeah, but Aberdeen will now go to a full season versus the abbreviated season. So, look, this is kind of what we saw coming with Major League Baseball, is there was going to be a cutback on the amount of teams, and the Orioles, for whatever reason, have had an abundance of teams over the years. So they had to trim the fat somewhere. It just sucks, because I enjoyed going up to that stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, and like I said, they usually draw very good crowds there.
Yeah.
As a Marylander, I wish they would have cut Norfolk and just kept your teams in-house.
Right. I'd been fine with that. Yeah. Like, make Frederick your AAA team and get rid of Norfolk affiliation. But that's just being
but it seemed like with the whole contraction of the minor leagues, it was more, there's so many teams that have 2, 3, 4 low A rookie ball leagues that they were like, look, you should basically just have one for each
Yeah,
or one
ranking.
or two for each. But.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that they're gonna get through that, and that's the reason you don't do that to a AAA team or even a AA team is you have way more money invested in the AA and AAA affiliations, so that's why you go ahead and you get rid of one of those single A organizations. That I think the Frederick was probably making them money, but I think Aberdeen. You still have it's a strategic piece there. You still have the association with Cal, and it's right up. It's literally 95 Aberdeen to Baltimore on a good day without traffic. You can get somebody down there in 40 minutes max if you needed to. I know they're not going there. I know they're going further down, but at the same time, it's still closer versus fighting the Frederick traffic. I get it to an extent, but I also get the marketing side.
I do think Fred's right. I think they sell a lot more tickets in Frederick than they do in Aberdeen on any day that's not a Saturday, like perfect weather day.
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot else to do up there.
Yeah, I was just saying.
It draws a good crowd up there. But I love Aberdeen too. The atmosphere there's good. What they do for families and kids is good. I mean, that's minor league baseball at its core. But I like both of those programs. So selfishly, I would have liked to kept them all. But it is what it is. They got to trim the fat somewhere.
No rules, no boundaries, 2 topics, 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, guys, it's time for the 2-minute warning.
Both. It's up to you.
No, I got one.
This is where YouTube cuts us off because everybody's throwing up gang signs and whatnot. It's just, if you haven't tuned in before, that's only what happens.
That's only before we changed the 2-minute warning, Fred.
Right.
Yeah, right.
All right. I have no idea what you guys are asking. I don't even know if you guys have questions or not because there's nothing in the outline. So this is on you.
It that way. I like it.
That's
all right.
That's no outline.
All right. Scott, I'll go first on this.
I went first last week. You better be volunteering.
First. I'll own it.
Drew, is it you or me?
No, you're going first because I went first last week.
Okay.
I'm in the holiday spirit. I'm going first. I'll give you that go there, Scott.
And I'm in the holiday spirit because I'm giving you first.
Holiday spirit. We're keeping it in the house. Go. Let's go. All right. In the holiday spirit, my Christmas is tomorrow with National Signing Day. I want to know what yours is. Is it draft day? Is it pitchers and catchers reporting? What's your sports Christmas?
For me, it's 100% opening day for baseball. It's an entire festival. It's an entire day of activities. I'm pretty sure I get drunk and sober 3 times through the course of that morning before game even starts. I'm sad that we missed it this year. We had big plans for it. Hopefully that comes back next year or this coming year for this year, for this season. Because that's a whole day experience. I love opening day.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I hate to be the copy.
repeats, Scott. Go.
Right. I hate to say it, but it is. For me, it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. With my dad and having missed one for him one year, having not missed an opening day pretty much since I was born. It holds a special meaning, and that's what I think. When you talk about Christmas sports, it's something that holds a special meaning to you. And to me, that holds a special meaning more than anything else. If I'm giving you a secondary, I don't know,
day just
Super
gives
Bowl?
you gifts? Those Super Bowl, you said? All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
Go ahead, Drew.
All right, we're all fantasy football players. Non-QBs, who is your pick for fantasy MVP of 2020?
Non-QBs. I guess if I'm going to go anybody, man, I would say when he's healthy, it's been Delvin Cook. I think Delvin Cook's had a big year this year, and that was a big miss by Ryan and I in that draft with not taking Cook when we should have. Man, I don't know. There's so many players. Devontae Adams has had a huge year at the wide receiver position, so he's in the running as well. There's a few running backs. Scott, who do you got?
For me, I think I have to. I'm just looking at my team mainly too. I think I've got to look at it and say the guys that have been so critical. Tyler Lockett. I know he's been up and down. But
Tyler Lockett.
What I say,
Your team sucks.
I'm in first. Hold on.
I hate Fred's answers.
Drew, I'm in first place.
Here, right?
You what?
I'm in first place.
It ain't because of Tyler Lockett.
It actually is because you know how many times
MVP,
Tyler Lockett being in my
first-round draft
lineup
pick.
actually saved my ass.
He didn't say like comeback player.
I just didn't want it to be a
biggest
quarterback. That's a
value.
little too obvious sometimes.
I just feel like if fantasy MVP is somebody that wins me money, and when you win me money 99.5% of the time, it's somebody that you hit late round.
Oh, then
that
it's
gave you
Justin
first round
Jefferson.
value.
That is Justin Jefferson.
Or Robinson. We're playing him this week. Nobody thought they were getting that out of a running back. He's been a top 20 running back every week, and you got him the 16th round.
Yeah.
I got Lockett late.
Who do you got, Drew? Who's your picks?
Well, if you're going first round, Devontae Adams, because he's the best wide receiver in the league right now. To me, if you're picking someone that's on the outside, it actually might be Tyreek Hill, because you had that amazing game, but he has never really had, his floor is like like wide receiver 12. Like he's always been a top one or a top, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He's never been like, all right, yeah, but then he had one catch for 5 yards because, he went against, the best, like Mo Claiborne or somebody. So, like, to me, it'd be Tyreek Hill if I want to go outside the first
I don't
round,
even know if Tyreek Hill's the MVP on his own team. I think Travis Kelce's got a good argument for MVP outside of Mahomes on that team.
But you're talking.
I like
fantasy,
Tyreek Hill.
though.
Don't get me wrong, huh?
You're talking fantasy though. There's a little bit difference. The fantasy implication.
No,
also has
well,
a
you're
lot to do
talking
with
about a
that.
PPR league. Receptions and yards and touchdowns are equal.
Kelce is going to. I'm not even going to say he has a chance to. He's going to lead the league in receiving yards.
Who?
Kelce.
Yeah,
it's happening.
And the other guy, and this isn't me just saying this because we're homers or anything. Stephon Diggs, what he's doing in Buffalo, he leads the NFL in receptions this year. And that's, if you're playing in a PPR league, a full point PPR, you're getting a point for every catch on top of the yardage, on top of the touchdowns. Devontae Adams, I think, is head and heels above everybody else as far as wide receivers go. But these are some other guys. And I think, again, to your point, Ryan, if you're talking about the biggest value, the biggest bang for your buck where you got him late, Justin Jefferson, even though he's a rookie, man, he's had a huge year for that. He's single-handedly kept us in most games.
The 2-minute warning is turning into like a 10-minute warning here.
Yeah.
It's been a great show, Scott.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Oh, man.
All right, Scott, sign us off, man. Good show.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. Each week, you guys know that you can go to our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, check out all of our episodes. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear. Obviously, Show and Tell episode. You guys got a new one coming out?
Yeah, we
do.
just copied it right now.
Yeah, cut and paste.
There we go. So look for a new Show and Tell episode coming out. Make sure you also check us out, Big Play app, birdlandsports.com. We're affiliated with all of those groups. Also, make sure that you check all of us out on our social media pages. Just add us. At Birdland BS is how you find us. At Fred BLBS, at Scott BLBS, at Terps BS Bert. Make sure you go follow us. And I guess it's at Drew. What is it? I don't even know.
N27?
Just use the hashtag Drew.
I'll put it in next week. It's at Drew27N.
There you go. Make sure you go follow us while you're there. Also, make sure you comment. Send us your comments. We're always looking for ideas for the show. So if you have an idea for a segment or something you want us to talk about, make sure you send it to us beforehand. It helps us prepare for the show and get out your comments and your thoughts as we're preparing for the show. Make sure you also check us out on all of our YouTube. Huh?
Somebody said Derrick Henry. I said that's a good one too.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Again, Birdland BS is how you find us. Also, make sure that if you want to send us your questions, birdlandbs@gmail.com. The audio version of the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, go check us out. Thanks for tuning in as always. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Time. We'll see you guys.
See you. It's time for the after party. No, we don't hear you. It's not last call.
It's last call for alcohol. I muted myself, and then there's so much to do when you're not here, Fred. Okay, chill out.
You've abandoned him.
Yeah.
Oh man.
James called me out. He says, Fred got that liter of cola. No, James, I will correct you. I'm trying to go healthy. I went Smoothie King. This is not a cola. This is a pineapple and raspberry smoothie. It is fucking fantastic. $11, but fantastic.
$11, 4,000 calories, and somehow they convince us it's healthy.
That's right.
Oh man, good show, guys. We went long.
We made up for the short show from last week for sure.
That amazing ass game on Monday night.
Yeah,
kind of have to.
Could not talk about a ton of people commenting throughout this whole entire thing. It's crazy how many comments we got on this, and we still got 14 people out there that are watching the show.
Appreciate all you guys tuning in.
Yeah, so
it's Drew's brother, my wife.
Is Chris still on there? Is he still on there?
Let's see. I don't know.
I think he's a bad eye at that. I guess because maybe next week I'll pull up the league site. I mean Birdland.
I know this isn't sports. This isn't sports related, but for all those locals out there, Ryan, tell everybody out there where you went today prior to the show. It sounded like it was a good time for anybody looking for something to do during the holidays.
All I know about it being called is Cedar Day Lights. So if you're up in the Abingdon area, Bell Camp area, it's right across the street from Cedar Day Park, the rec center up there. The guy has a awesome Christmas light show. It's donations accepted for diabetes benefit. He apparently got diagnosed with diabetes, wanted to find some way to donate to the cause, and he's developed this whole company. I think it's called Elfworks. And he had a really awesome Christmas show. I'm kind of a Grinch, a little humbuggy. So for me to tell you this is like a fun Christmas thing to do, it was pretty legit. There was a Hamilton reindeer song that had the lights going to it. That was pretty awesome. And that you'll go two-step. That was like a Christmas Santa song that they converted it to. It was pretty cool. It's not your typical little drummer boy blinky white lights.
Right. And it's something good to do, especially with COVID right now, with all the restrictions and not being able to get out there and do anything. Even a lot of the Christmas stuff that you can do out there, it's by appointment only. All the appointments are already booked up, so you can't get out there to do a whole lot. So get up there and check it out. It's for a good cause. It gives you something to do with the kiddos. Sounds
you
like
go there, you park out front of the house, facing the house, and you basically stay until you want to leave. We were there 25 minutes, and I bailed out to come back here to do the show. I didn't see anything repeat. I don't know how long his loop is. I kind of want to message him and ask him to see how long would it take me to watch your whole show. But it was really cool.
All right, so let's stick with the Christmas theme, right? It's the after hours. What the fuck ever. It's the Christmas theme. What is everybody doing? Any fun plans? I mean, are you guys just hibernating in the house because you have to, or what's going on with everybody's plans for Christmas? Anything fun? Drew, anything going on?
I have the curveball of I don't know what the hell's going on. Yeah. Because she works Christmas Eve and Christmas.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like,
the 26th is your Christmas. It's the nurse life.
I don't. So that's it's TBD.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing because every time I ask, I don't get a real answer. I think we're gonna. It's kind of gonna be on the 26th. But I'm like, do I wake up on Christmas morning and just all right, let's make some pancakes and hang out, kids? I don't know what to do yet.
Right.
So
it's difficult to navigate.
In a week.
We're getting.
Do your kids still believe in everything? So that's.
I don't think they quite. I don't think
they don't even believe yet.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. I don't.
Okay.
They know Santa, but I can't say that.
I know
we're not going to wake up on Friday and they know it's Christmas unless. My in-laws keep saying Santa's coming tomorrow. Santa's coming tomorrow. Then I'm gonna be like, well, sorry, Ariel. They're opening all the presents right now.
I'm gonna tell an embarrassing Christmas story. I'm gonna tell an absolutely embarrassing Christmas story.
Before you do, I got to get this in because Drew just got finished talking. James has a comment for you. He says, "Wear your Orioles shirt next week, and you can blend in even more."
I'm done with this room. It's something different next week. I don't know something's happening. I want to do it this week, and then I got shortchanged. I show up 7:15.
I'll bring you a beer and a green screen.
Too bad that the technology isn't called orange screen because you'd just be able to easily blend that out and change it into whatever you want.
I got to give some expert parenting to my parents on this one. This is an embarrassing Christmas story. You talk about changing the date on Christmas is basically what you want to do to your kids. Well, they basically changed the time on Christmas for us. So Somehow one year, my parents got us like a whole pool table set up in our house. And the way they pulled this off was they convinced us that they were moving their master bedroom down there. So they had the kids do all the work and clear all the whole room out. And we had a blast playing in this empty room. And then they got it set up on Christmas Eve or or the 23rd or something. And they had wrapped the glass door in wrapping paper so you couldn't see in it. They took us all out Christmas Eve for movies, a double feature, set all the clocks ahead so when we got home they thought it was late to go to bed, and we all immediately went to bed, and the next morning a pool table has appeared from Santa Claus. I have no idea. Like, I don't know if we'll ever reach that kind of level. They dedicated themselves to Christmas.
Wow.
Dedication.
That's pretty awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, for me, it's going to be pretty low key. I'll probably do the normal family thing, depending upon how my family kind of takes to it. Nothing special. Just
it's the 2020 Christmas. My in-laws are here asking me what's going on with Christmas. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who will be. I don't know who will have been around a COVID outbreak that week. I don't know who will be suspended from work, waiting to be able to return. I don't know who will be isolating somewhere else. But ask me the 23rd. I'll tell you what I'm doing on Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, that's the thing with us. It'd be like one thing if you were just working Christmas, you just do Christmas Eve, because a lot of times, like when we first started dating, like a lot of us, we would do Christmas Eve with her family, and it would leave stuff for like us and my family on Christmas, because they used to do Christmas Eve a lot because their mom was always working Christmas.
Right.
So it's kind of like, if you had Christmas Eve, all right, but now it's like Saturday, and it's like, all right, we never really, when we did Christmas a lot since the kids were born, we would host, and it wasn't always a lot of people, but it was like we would host a dinner, and maybe there'd be a handful of us, and you'd have a couple people, come in and out that wanted to give gifts and just spend 30 minutes with you. But I'm like, that's not really happening this year. Right. But I mean, it might be just, that on the 26th, like, hey, it's Christmas. The kids don't know a difference.
Right. All right. So Craig Zero wants us to hone it back in, talk a little bit more sports, right? So he says, guys, have you, right. He says, guys, have you noticed that this new breed of quarterbacks are better from the start? I think they're explosive and more talented because they develop their talents, but also study the great quarterbacks like Brady, Manning, Rodgers, Breeze, etc. So I agree that, they've got a lot of good mentors ahead of them to kind of learn from. But I think a bigger part of the reason that you're seeing this is because of the evolution of the game. Like this game has become a more pass heavy game and more friendly to offenses as far as penalties go and that kind of thing. So some of these quarterbacks are having a little bit more success because of just the rule changes. I think that's part of it. And then I think it's just analytics and everything else that kind of goes into the study of a player. I think there's smarter selections. It's not as bad of a gamble as it used to be with quarterbacks because there's just so much more information that you can get on these guys than you had 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You had to really, really dive into your scouts, your local area scouts, because that's who you were relying on. Outside of that, now you've got so much footage and tape and analytics that you can do a lot more diving into these guys than I think you could years ago.
I think you're spot on with that. I think Lamar is the prime example of that. Nobody, we talked about it last year. We talked about it early this year. How many GMs and head coaches were kicking themselves in the ass for not drafting Lamar with the production that he's put out, or especially last year. A lot of guys are sitting there saying, this is a guy that he has the potential to be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were just scared of Lamar because of the running quarterback thing. It wasn't a Lamar thing. It was a running quarterback just never works in this league. So we're not taking the gamble on him with a first round pick. The Ravens saw the potential in them, knew that they had Greg Roman in the wings, saw what Greg Roman had done elsewhere and took that gamble.
But I also think too, they also saw the things that we've talked about, like the fact that he doesn't take a lot of hits. He really doesn't. Yeah. He still doesn't. When he's taking hits, it's usually in the pocket nowadays. Right. And that's one of the things that's different about Lamar versus an RG3 or even a Vic. The comparisons with Vic have been out there. These guys took a lot more hits, which is why they didn't sustain the longer term careers. This is a guy that pretty much can outrun almost anybody on the field.
I think Lamar rubbed a lot of feathers wrong too, though, with his just overall bucking the system. The fact that he didn't hire an agent, that it's his mom. The fact that he doesn't want to sign these endorsement deals. He's selling his own branded items. I think this is like really shaking the cage. Like,
wouldn't you want that? A guy who's dedicated to football and doesn't want to have to deal with these advertisers, and it doesn't want to have to deal with an agent. He trusts his mom enough. If I'm going to play business, I'm going to put my business hat on for a second and say, I think that there are people that are trained that know the system and know everything better than his mom. Hell yeah. But who knows their son better? Who's a better advocate than your mother? Right. Or a family member.
Keeping the money in house. I'm just saying that the old guard, the Jerry Jones of the world that just got a player suspended with fake COVID, don't do well with change. Like, they just don't. And I also, you don't have to convince me of this new players coming in better. I've took flack from you guys before. If they don't sign Lamar to a second contract, you had no problem here for me, because I think in a salary cap league, you're going to get to the point where the teams that play these astronomical salaries to the quarterbacks will not be able to win, period. Just like we saw the running backs stop getting second contracts pretty much. I think the quarterbacks are going to be the same way.
The NFL is an evolutionary business, right? With payments and who we're paying this time around. It's a cyclical evolutionary business. It's always moving. And James even says, Bears say this, when we were talking about Lamar and teams not drafting him, Bears are saying the same thing about not drafting Mahomes. The Bears did have the chance to have Mahomes. How much are they kicking themselves in the ass right now?
Yeah, I get those types of misses, but like, you don't see the Ryan Leafs of the world. You don't see the Kyle Bowlers of the world. You don't see these complete like fucking fall off the face of the earth type players anymore. They're just not there. Drew?
Yeah, I think too.
Just Josh Rosen is one.
Yeah. He said that.
That's an enigma. I want to say it's just him. I think it's him, and then on top of that, like, he just kept getting like tossed around like a fucking bag of rocks.
Yeah, there's three starting quarterbacks in this year's draft. Easy.
Yeah,
easy.
I think a big thing too, and it's a little bit of Lamar, and now I'll say Tua too, and there's other examples. At least I'm thinking of them too. You have players of their ilk coming in, and you have this big deal, and you have this week-long thing on NFL Network about these guys running around in goddamn shorts. Lamar came to that weekend or week or whatever long he was there. He came to that and said, "You know what? I'm not running your goddamn 40. I'm throwing. I'm here to be a quarterback." Tua said, "You know what? Yes, I've had my issues, but I'm not going to show up at your combine. You come to my pro day." A lot of these pro days are getting just as big as combines, especially with these bigger schools where they have a handful of guys to show off. Where you have a Tua, all right, yeah, you're coming to see Tua. Well, now you might see all of the Alabama wide receivers or cornerbacks that are coming out the league. I think a lot of the big deal is you're seeing a lot of the younger quarterbacks come out and stand up for themselves. And saying, no, you're not going to put me in a goddamn mold. I'm going to come out and do this. If not,
coming out swinging.
I'll have a chip on my shoulder because you guys didn't draft me.
If I'm an evaluator, right, I want to see a quarterback work outside of their comfort zone. You put them in a pro day, it's all scripted, it's all rehearsed. They've done it 10 times prior, so they know what's coming. The routes are all kind of, it's like I said, it's all scripted. I just think the combine serves a good purpose because it does put people up against a number, right? It's all, again, about analytics and statistic. It's trying to figure out where somebody lays in comparison to other players in the league, and how does that translate? So I do think that there's still, I think the combine still serves its purpose.
Yeah,
there's a ton of those. I mean, you can even say that with Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown ran a great 40, but
Hayward Bay got dumped into the black hole that is Oakland that ruined every fastest receiver.
So James also chimes in talking about, since we're on the quarterback conversation, and I think this is a good point, but I think there's a contingency to it. He says Wentz is trash. Wentz has also suffered the injuries, but I do agree with him because I think the whole reason Philly was competitive when they were, and they're proving it now, was because of Nick Foles. It was Foles' magic that got them there and got them to the
It
point
was
they
that
did.
defense and the best defense.
It was the defense. It was Frank Reich as their offensive
And that
coordinator,
offensive line was completely healthy.
and that offensive
It
line
was.
was healthy, 100%.
But Nick Foles was able to operate in that same exact offense that Carson Wentz wasn't.
Yeah, but what is Nick Foles doing in Chicago right now? So if it
I'm
was a
not saying Nick
thing,
Foles is. I'm not saying Nick Foles is great, but it's the right player, right scheme.
and I'm
But
not
both
ready to
those
say that.
quarterbacks-
I'm not ready to say that Carson Wentz is complete trash either. Like I don't think.
The Eagles are. He's benched for this week already.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that he could still pick up a job somewhere else and potentially make it somewhere. I think he needs a good offensive line.
He doesn't need
that
to pick
contract fucking sucks though. He's
I
not
was
going
gonna say
anywhere.
he
They're
doesn't
gonna
need
have
to
pay
pick
him
up.
that
He
money.
doesn't need to pick up a contract because they're paying him. He's set for life if he really wants to. He could sit back on the bench and do nothing and be getting paid.
Yeah.
And that's the reason you don't resign these. And if this math works out, this year's probably an exception. Last year, pretty damn good too, though. If you end up with 3 starting caliber quarterbacks every year, they're 5-year contracts. That is 15 quarterbacks being replaced by the draft. That only leaves 17 that you have to re-sign. That's it. That's all that you have to do. All 15 of them get to go sit at home. I don't know.
I guess.
James
All
says,
right.
Fred, you draft him next year. No.
He said, "I dare you."
Fantasy suicide, and that's not me.
The hell,
He
drafting Carson Wentz in
He
2020.
doesn't use a magazine.
So Robbie just chimed in. He says there's
Yeah, magazine guys.
he said there's a big difference. Carson Wentz was playing at an MVP level before he tore his ACL and hasn't come back to form since. Deshaun Watson tore his ACL when he was playing very well, and he is back. Is he?
Yeah, his ex-coach just gave everything fucking away that was at his disposal.
Yeah.
Watson, I mean.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think those are two totally different players. I think
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Deshaun Watson can absolutely
Here's a guy
be
that
a franchise.
you have a guy
quarterback.
that has the weapons that can't do anything with him, and you have a guy that doesn't have any weapons and is somehow still able to kind of do something in Watson.
Lamar will take a friendly contract next year because he wants championships, not money. Doubtful. Very doubtful. Guy, listen, I know we all hope because he's a great guy and he seems like he's personable and the Ravens love him and he loves the Ravens and all that stuff. At the end of the day, Lamar, if he's proven anything,
Money talks.
he's about his money, right? Like that's why he does his own clothing line because he's trying to cut out the middleman. It's why he does all the things that he does.
Fred, let's preface this that we got an email from somebody that represents him when we did the whole hashtag Lamar effect thing.
Right.
So he's about his money.
I love Lamar, but he's not taking a hometown discount to stay here. He's
no
going to get
quarterback
paid.
is anymore.
Right.
He's
going to get paid.
He's going to get paid. He might take a little bit if they place the investment somewhere else ahead of time. If they go get a number one wide receiver, and I'm just throwing bullshit names out there right now just for an example. If they went out there and got somehow were able to fucking sign Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce, somebody that would be yet another number one target for him. Can you imagine what he would say? I think he wouldn't. It has to be the right situation. I think he would, but you have to show that you're going to get somebody that truly can benefit him in the long run in the passing game in order to make that happen.
So I just looked this up. Did you know that we play each other this week in fantasy?
Oh, I know.
Okay, so
so for those that don't know, we are in the final 4 of the Birdland BS League. The 3 of us
first,
Scott, me, and
first
Ryan,
6,
and then Troy. I'm surprised, Ryan, you even snuck in the playoffs. You were all worried like weeks prior that there was no way you were going to make it.
Well, Fred, because I'm in 6th place in our league, but I have the 2nd most points scored for the year. So every week I was hitting a bad matchup. The only thing you can control in fantasy football is how many points you score. You can't stop this team from scoring against you. Yeah. And I was 7-6 with the 2nd most points in the league.
But Ryan, who has the most points in the league?
You do have the most points and the best record. I will give you full credit for that. And that's a difficult thing to do.
Scott, what's your record?
Did have that in one of my 3 leagues.
9-4.
Yeah, suck it.
Jesus.
So
what are you like 11-2?
I do think you're gonna beat me this week, Scott. I'm not gonna lie. I think
I'm glad you two are going against each other because if I get past my matchup with Troy, at least I only have to deal with one of you and not both of you. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, losing Will Fuller really took the steam out of my sails here to try to beat you.
That's a big loss for sure.
I don't know. Like, I have Mostert right now, and he's still a question mark for whether he's going to be able to do anything.
He's not playing.
I was say that's going to be that. If you win, it's because I don't really necessarily have anybody to back up Mostert.
So this is the second week in a row where I need the running back playing the Ravens to go off. It worked last week. I don't know if it's going to work this time.
All right, guys, we appreciate everybody staying tuned in with us and hanging out with us. It's 10:30. We've been on this thing for way too long now. We've been on here for 3 straight hours. So time for us to go night-night.
Tuesdays, best day of the week.
See you guys next week, Tuesday, 7:30.